from Grapple Talents. It's the 3rd annual GRAPPY Awards with your hosts, Benno, JP, Gareth and Matty.
Hello everyone, and as the mystery voice man just said the background there, welcome to the 2023 GRAPPY Awards. I'm Benno.
I'm JP.
I'm Gareth.
And I'm Matty.
It's like one of those stand-ups, that JP, where like they start the stand-up like off stage, just does a little intro, and then in a different voice, and then he runs on stage with someone else. Love it.
Oh, as it comes back on, refusing to go away.
Are we here already? Are we doing year-end awards? We're live here on the Patreon. Thank you, patrons, for joining us. But yeah, how's this happened already, JP? Are we already at the end of 2023? If it feels wrong this year, like the timing of this, because we're kind of live and recording this like the 19th of December, like it's 11 days before the end of the year. So it's still like, pretty close to the end of the year. But I think maybe it's Tony Khan that's just fucked us with his World's End pay-per-view, and obviously Wrestle Kingdom is also coming up as well. But yeah, believe it or not, the year is about to end.
Yeah, it just feels wrong, isn't it? Like I end the year with an 8-month-old baby as well, which is kind of mental because he wasn't around for the start of it. So you're just like, bloody hellfire. That was a big year. But in wrestling terms, it feels like everything's kind of kicking off now. And normally December's quite dead, but you're thinking to yourself, shit. Like, there's this December 30th show. Punk wrestles his first match on the same day as World's End. You got Wrestle Kingdom soon afterwards, which I've got some things to say about that bastard company. And then it's just like, here we are. We've got CM Punk all around the place just coming back in. So it just feels like anything could happen in these 11 days. We can end up saying stuff and we just get it wildly wrong.
That's it. Your brainchild this last year, Matty. How's it feel about being back? Another year is done. Do we need to have it like the Oscars? Maybe we change the rules of what constitutes a year. I mean, it's a game January to December, but this is the 1 year where I'm a little bit. Well, Final Battle only just happened. World's End still to happen, but unless like the match of the year happens at World's End, I won't feel so bad.
No danger of that.
Oh, well. It reminds me of those years where we do like the top 10 matches of the year podcast in January, and it was always like we were doing our top 10, and one of our number one would be from Wrestle Kingdom, but not the one the week before, the one from like literally a full year before. So we're still doing better than that.
No, it is, and as you say, like I'm looking forward to this so much. I think this will, as JP's alluded to the last few weeks, mate, it could cause some good debate, good honest debate, I hope. And JP, to be fair, mate, it looks like me and you've made the effort. What's going on?
We have.
Where's the ties? What's going on?
Shocking behaviour if you two.
I didn't even spot that. And I was thinking of getting my Christmas tie out as well. I'm gutted I didn't pull that out. Sure, you've got a tie, Gareth. You're in the office.
No tie. I haven't worn a tie for 10 years.
It happens to all of us. You'll go full Jim Smallman one day when you're, when you're proper at the the Middle Ages. That's the time. Bust them out. Get the suit going.
Well, after
I have,
for somebody
mate.
Else.
Embrace it. Embrace it, mate. You'll love it.
That's the spirit, things I like that. Not going to happen ever again, that, mate.
No.
You've worked hard enough to not be at that point, but no, looking smart, Matty. Love it. Like it, matching it with a Nirvana t-shirt. Proper way to do it.
Of course. Do you anyone ever watch Billions? It's like Axelrod, where he just thought he's like this big billionaire, JP, and it's like, I just don't wear suits. He just turns up to these big board meetings in like Metallica t-shirts. He's a proper legend, mate. Proper TV character, Axelrod.
I've never seen an episode of Billions, but I'm loving a bit of that. Yeah, I'm
like that, JP?
my tie with a CM Punk t-shirt, which is kind of almost like this, explaining the dichotomy of Phil Brooks there, isn't it? Corporate Phil that we've got now.
That's it. Fits, doesn't it? But that's it. It is the end of the year season. We are obviously this was this week's spotlight essentially. Next week's will be the Ask Grapple special because we are in that time of year. Then, like I say, World's End's on, Wrestle Kingdom's on, so it'll be back to normal very very quickly. Although maybe later in the week that week, but stay tuned for that. But yeah, with the Grappies being the replacement for Spotlight this week, the Crappies are Patreon exclusives, like YouTube exclusive. So this is the show where we mostly talk the positive. I'm sure there's not gonna be any arguments, Matty. No back and forth or any.
Not from me, mate.
That are going to come up on this. We might have a Home Alone film club in the can that our patrons are going to get later this week as well, where we managed to celebrate Christmas by arguing about which Home Alone is better. And I spent most of the show just slagging off Home Alone 2. So this is just what we do at the end of the year, you know. Yeah, that's how a positive show goes for us.
Christmas season.
That's it. We'll be as positive as we can in the grappies, but yeah, for the real mudslinging, and like I said, things get a bit dark. Last year, I realised that because we're recording the grappies live. Last year, we tried to do the grappies and the crappies both live. I checked the file this morning, lads. 6 hours and 14 minutes is how long we went last year over the 2 shows. And somehow, Will and I think Liam maybe one other person was still live in the chat there for us last year. So we've made the wise decision this year to split them up in 2. So the crappies will be a Patreon exclusive show and a standalone show at that. But I don't know. We got the 6 hours in us anymore, JP. I'm not sure. We'll find out on our Scrapple next week, really. But like, I can't believe that. Like Gareth said, it's a full work shift, that isn't it? Like honestly,
it is full day work. I was looking at it. When you sent that image through, I was thinking that I'd still be here listening to this now at like 3 o'clock this afternoon if I'd have started it the second I started work. It's insane. We just sat there till probably about 4 a.m, just fucking chatting shit about some rubbish tag team or something like that. Like, what are we doing?
And we have, in fairness, our patrons who've said they'd
yeah.
Stay up with us through the night. So yeah, unless an audible gets called, just the grappies live, but the crappies will be Patreon exclusive. But that's where the real stuff happens, isn't it, JP?
Oh yeah. That's always where it gets. I wouldn't say kind of dark, but certainly we're cutting loose at that point, and you've got to imagine we're a couple of hours into recording at that stage. But yeah, plenty to say for this year, including. I mean, and it does feel good that in the year of the Iron Claw coming out, that we do still have our Fritz von Erich Most Disgusting Thing in Wrestling award. Like that feels like that his name has made it there as well. And yeah, the get in the bin stuff. Yeah, it all very much kicks off with the crappy. So if you want that, patreon.com/grapple.
There you go. Get that over there. And of course, yeah, Home Alone Film Club will be coming out. Retro will be coming out later in the month as well. So still lots of content coming, as well as that Scrapple, which will be free for all the people next week on YouTube. Patrons will be jumping the queue on that one. If you've not experienced that one before, as explained on the Patreon today, JP, if we don't break you today with the grappies and crappies, we always try our ass Scrapple to try and break you down. But you put up a good resistance the last couple of years. You haven't gone full Alvarez on us. We call it's like the Christmas New Year party, isn't it? It's like that little party in that dead spot between Christmas and New Year. So let's see how you survive.
That was my Rumble 92 performance there, but just like in kind of drinking stakes and doing it live on YouTube. It's like that feels like a very dangerous game to play. But yeah, I will be. It's always good because again, you don't have to do any kind of research whatsoever, and we can kind of kick back and generally like relax and have a few drinks, and hopefully everyone will be joining us at various stages throughout the evening. So yeah, we've got like loads of stuff coming up for the rest of this month.
It's still one of my favourite moments ever, that just seeing your open door as you disappeared off at the end. Was that 2 years ago?
Yeah.
When you just had enough?
I just was gone.
We were just left with an open door and no JP for the last hour of the show, or last 2 hours of the show.
We were still going. We were quite happy because that literally happened again last year. I'm pretty sure our Scrapple went 5 or 6 hours last year, and we were all kind of still in good nick. Maybe just as we're getting older, we're handling a little better, or we're pacing ourselves a little better. I remember last year you wanted to go even longer, Gareth. We could have done a double shift there. Could have gone to the 10, 12 hour mark. Maybe we'll break that record at some point. But that's what it is. Season of long podcast. That's what's going on.
I can't hack it anymore. You've seen me in town.
It'll be an equivalent to that during that Scrapple. But yeah, we're into the season, so yeah, here we are, and we're going to be talking the best of the year. I mean, how do we categorize it as a year, lads? This one, I think last year was. I feel like the year before and maybe the year before that as well were probably like the more troublesome ones, specifically the pandemic era. Trying to do like we didn't do year-end awards back then, but we did do our top 10 matches of the year, which was definitely tough to pull from. Last year felt like a bit of a struggle. Last year felt a little bit like the AEW awards, plus a lot of Bloodline thrown in. Don't know. I mean, obviously that was me voting for Roman Reigns for all the categories. But like, I know you've been saying off here, Gareth. You found this one a bit of a struggle as far as stuff out there. It is a year where it is, AEW we've had discussions about whether we agree fully that it went off the boil, but I think there was definitely a point where you weren't so engaged. There's points where me and JP weren't so engaged. And then you look elsewhere for stuff to watch. And I know this is the positive show and you're looking for the best of the year, but there isn't really much there, is there? When you're thinking alternatives, like most of the time, there's always been something. Like there was New Japan that kept us going for years. There's been AEW that's kept us going for years. But yeah, if AEW struggles, you do start looking around going, fuck, do I have to start watching SmackDowns or 3-hour Raws? Or maybe that's just me.
It'll never get that bad, mate. Don't worry about that. That is what I've found out this year, is that it just has felt like it's probably been the least breadth of wrestling that I've watched in a decade easily, just to where there's things like, in the past, obviously indies felt a bit stronger, New Japan was stronger, things like Noah at the time emerging and things like that coming through. That felt like there was a lot of different things, even things like NXT, going back a couple of years and stuff like that, as a WWE alternative and things like that you'd be tuning into for different things like that. Now, I mean, I sort of like almost have just been stuck in that AW lane a little bit with, picking up the odd like ROH pay-per-view or Impact pay-per-view, or, watching like a range of stuff WrestleMania weekend and things like that. But I don't know if it just coincides with a bit of post-app closure burnout or something like that kind of thing. I've just been a bit like, just need to just stop thinking about so much wrestling kind of thing and just stay in lane a bit more. But I still think when actually like sat down and thought about it and started to put the list together, while it's AEW heavy, there's still the odd thing that sneaks in from other places and stuff like that. But it's probably one of those. I do feel a bit like it feels a bit weird doing like the scale of awards that we do in here, and feeling a bit fraudulent really, that you sort of picking from a very small pool when it comes down to it. So, but it is what it is.
You struggled too, I'm sure, Matty. Nothing's been going on this year. There's nothing for you to watch, nothing to get excited about.
No.
I assume you're just going to be all NXT this year, like TV show of the year, book of the year, Shawn Michaels, wrestle of the year, your favorite Carmelo Hayes, feud of the year, Carmelo Hayes and the Undertaker. There's of stuff for you this year.
No, I should be. I reckon like if we're breaking this year down, it's like thirds for me. It's like the first 2 thirds of WWE was, for me, genuinely as good as it gets. And then there was a slight drop off with the pay-per-views and stuff. And then obviously with Punk coming back, it's brought it back round. And while it's still obviously solid, the first 2 thirds though were like really, really good. And a lot of my things will be probably from that first 2 thirds of the year. But NXT did get in consideration though, Ben, all joking aside there. And there was a few I was going to put down, but we'll wait and see, won't we?
Have you found it, John Paul? You've been throwing in some stuff in the end of these spotlights. A bit of MLW, bit of Impact. I'm expected to make up part of yours. Bit of All Japan, bit of Aussie Graps, bit of US Indies, maybe. Or is it AEW?
Attack.
Attack, yeah.
when looking at it,
wrestling, Swindon Championship.
Hey, you leave Swindon's Championship Wrestling alone. The purest promotion of choice. I was just thinking about it just like this year. It's been, and some of mine kind of go around the place, but it's not been a banner year for wrestling in general. And this being like the kind of first proper post-pandemic year, we've got a good idea of where companies sort of really are at this stage. And it's sort of combined with I think there's a couple of comments in the chat that really stand out for me. Andy says it's the Empire Strikes Back, where the Fed makes a comeback. There's a bit of that, which always leaves me somewhat disillusioned. And Chris Platt says, it's the average might have been higher, but the peaks are quite rare. And I think there's those kind of things, and a lot of promotions are like, rather than wholesale kind of like brilliance, there's like a feeling of like they're all still finding their way in a lot of ways, and we're going to have these conversations with like even AEW and even WWE to a degree. So it's not like a banner year for wrestling, although there's loads of fucking brilliant matches that happened. Like that's the case. I think the wrestling is arguably as kind of as good as it ever really has been, but it's the other stuff. It's like the creative bits. But
Don't you wish someone had made them an app for it, maybe, to help us track out the best matches of the year and the worst matches of the year? I was watching that 6-hour one this morning, and it was like RIP and peace the Grapple app. A couple of shout outs we threw in there. I was like, oh, glad they had the app in it. It definitely helped me pick out a few hidden gems and such like that. And there'll be a lot of people out there. So it's just the the memory of the app lives on. I reckon. There you go.
There's still people using it. No, I've had someone pecking my head to revive it this week a fair bit, but I think we'll leave the memories alone. I think on that one.
What were you saying to him, JP? What was your? Maybe one day. Probably not. But yeah, honestly, that has been like losing an arm a little bit for me in trying to like do the match, because that was the thing last year when we did the Grappies. We didn't include match of the year because we saved that for the top 10 of the year and later in January. But yeah, I've had to put my thinking cap on for that. And I'm sure you've been doing plenty of rewatching, Gareth. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of things to talk about: male wrestler of the year, female wrestler of the year, match of the year, all kinds of good stuff. So might as well get into it and start at the top, which is male wrestler of the year. And yeah, gonna put you up first, Gareth, if you're ready for it, mate. Gonna get us going with the first of our main topics. If you fancy joining in, over on the Discord, on the Patreon. Connor has done the Lord's work and put a great little Notion website together that helps you make your own picks. So if you want to play along at home, please do, or pop them in the live chat if you're watching along on YouTube. But yeah, I'll run in that order. Gareth, let's start it. Male wrestler of the year.
Well, with this one, I mean, it's one of these where it's like hard not to just go back to matches, and obviously, you're like looking at things where there's been like different main event feuds and things like that maybe haven't lived up to expectations and stuff. So I have ended up kind of stripping it back to the matches, and I can't remember if I voted for him last year. I might have voted him for the year before that, but I just got to come back to like Will Ospreay, really, because when it comes to not only match quality, it's just working fucking everywhere under the sun, isn't it? Kind of thing, which is one of the things that's always just the massive tick in the Ospreay boxes. Started the year with that absolutely amazing match with Kenny Omega, like proper 5-star match at Wrestle Kingdom, and then just dotted out throughout the year. Working with Kenny in AEW, Mike Bailey in Impact, working with Marufuji and like Noah, putting on like some good matches in Rev Pro with range of opponents from British to the Shingo match and things like that. It's just it's like year in year out, pretty much guaranteed 15, 20, 4.5-star plus matches, no matter where he works, and he fucking works everywhere. And maybe this might be the last year that he works at that rate and at that volume too, and maybe at that level as well potentially. So got to go with Will Ospreay based on match quality.
Interesting. Yeah, I believe I think last year you went Moxley in the end. I know you were threatening.
I did. Yeah.
Ospreay. Yeah. Connor sent us the full list. I'll bring it up in a second. But yeah, been on a lot of people's lips. Ospreay, I think this year. I think that's going to be the question here. It's going to be how do you decide who the wrestler of the year is? Is it on matches, to which Matty might argue with us? Is it just overall performance in ring and out of ring? Is it positioning? But yeah, Ospreay's he's going to get a lot of votes from people, because I don't think this year, JP, there's many people with like a better, like if you look at that long list of like 4.5-star plus matches, I can't think of another year where somebody's like had a year like this before at all. Even if you go back to like Prime Omega, Prime Okada, if you're just purely looking at the numbers, I suppose the argument against them, people will say, they almost kind of blend into each other. There's that many of them, so some people look at it as a flaw rather than a feature. But like, you go up and down that line, as Gareth alluded to there, it's a fucking long list.
It is, and it's a crazy, and that was the intention of the year, wasn't it? I'm going to have sort of the best work rate year through that anyone has ever had, or just it's up there where you're having outstanding matches, but also with an intention of doing it in loads of different promotions and loads of like not dream matches, but sort of like more intergenerational, like him and Marufuji and stuff like that in Noah, and like wrestling Josh Alexander and Mike Bailey in Impact, and the variety of like did 8 matches for for Rev Pro as well, and obviously we saw the Shingo match at the Copper Box, and this was always like the kind of like the intention to have these kind of all of these in a lot of cases younger wrestlers best matches of their careers to this point. And that's like just to set himself as a kind of like a benchmark, and it's hard to argue against it. And when I think of like the other contenders, they either had like at various points like a long, quite like leaves of absence, which someone like a Danielson would have been like, you know, as much as I would love to say that. We haven't had Phil around, have we? We haven't had Roman. Like it feels like he is the one person who has been around all of this year. Kenny Omega as well. It's not been like a banner year for Okada. Like I just don't think like necessarily when you look at the contenders, it's hard to argue who has had a better year than him. And he did it wrestling at the Tokyo Dome and at Wembley. And we saw the reaction at Wembley that he got. And he felt like a big fucking star. And it's the last time. And it's like the proper kind of like throwback to what a touring territory wrestler did. And they came in and it just feels like, oh, they popped the territory and now he's going to sign it. And we'll still be doing it, but to a lesser degree. Yeah, there wasn't really any other choice. And the matches have been fucking brilliant. Like,
he like you say, he even got a decent.
Ospreay.
He even got a decent match out of Jericho, like in 2023. Like, that's how good he's been.
It's hard to argue that. I almost felt like last year, and we're skipping around a bit because it's my number one as well. We'll fix the order in a minute, Matt. Don't worry. Unless it's your one too. I'm pretty sure it's not.
Oh no,
you might shock us in a minute. But it was like last year. I went Punk last year, and I listened back and I went, I'm not sure on that. Like it was, but last year was a real struggle of a year to pick anyone. I felt like, and it was like Ospreay probably, if you were talking in ring, probably had the strongest case. I just didn't feel that passionately about it. Moxley had kind of ran things in AEW when Punk was out and when other people were kind of out the picture, and he held things together, so he understood why people were voting for him. But I didn't feel strongly about that, so ended up going with a vanity pick last year. But I think this year, I think Ospreay's in ring it's to that level that I think it's unavoidable, really, as far as picking anybody. And a lot of shouts in the chat for Danielson, which I think are fair enough. Mikey mentions there he has been injured a bit this year, so he's been a bit in and out. Maybe that's why he kind of didn't come front of mind for me. But it definitely felt like this year Ospreay was having one of those years where it was just, I'm probably going to sign a contract next year. I'm probably not going to have, this level of freedom to do what I want and this type of year again to put in that work. And I can't argue with either of you to spoil my choice when we get round to me. It's Ospreay as well for me, and it's just purely based on the in-ring and the volume of matches he's had this year. And speaking of volume of matches, Matty, what's your...
no.
What's your first thoughts on saying Ospreay? Does it shock you?
No, I think that's what everyone's going to pick him, Ben. Let's be honest. Everyone's going to, for the reasons you've all said. It's the sheer volume. It's all the promotions. He's been around everywhere, hasn't he? That's why he's going to win it. Like, as you say there, looking at the chat, Feud Danielson picks there. But Ospreay's going to win.
I go Punk?
No. I didn't. I really didn't this time. I reckon
last year.
I reckon he'll be involved in your match of the year, though, without jumping ahead. I reckon he'll be involved in that. Maybe I'm wrong, but no, Ospreay, as I say, I think he's going to clean up on every award, every like podcast or every publication for this award. So doesn't surprise me one bit.
That's it. Yeah, when you've had the highs he's had, and even you just look at the Omega, like that's enough. But there's so
I still haven't seen the second one. I need to watch that. I still haven't seen the Forbidden Door one. No, I really need to see that.
I change your vote, mate. Do you want to go away and watch it? Before you,
it won't.
How many stars would it have to be to change your mind, mate? Is there no number?
Well, it's already 11, isn't it? So it should have to be 12.
Well, like I say, last year I went Punk, last year Gareth went Moxley, last year you've been consistent, JP. You went Ospreay 2 years in a row. Last year, Matty, you went Roman Reigns. So this year, what are you going with, mate?
Well, it's no surprise to no one. I'm sticking. It's Roman Reigns for me, boys, and I've got me monologue ready to go. Because
no. Did you not read the small print? You've got to have 10 singles matches to qualify.
Oh, is it 10 singles matches? Is it? Because I think he's had 12. He's had 12, including house shows, hasn't he? Because I've got him. Do you know how many times he's wrestled on TV? He's wrestled 7 times on TV this year.
Who the rest of the year?
Yeah, but what did you say before? You said it doesn't have to be the sheer volume of matches. It's quality over quantity. Have you heard that phrase before in your life, boys? That's what we're going. Yeah. So if we're going there, 4 out of the 7 matches have been rated 4.5 stars and above by Big Dave. Cage match has got.
You only impressed me with Big Dave stats if you're going over 6, mate. Come on.
No, but I'm just saying, considering everyone thinks he's had this poor year, because I think
a bad year. That.
No, but what I'm saying is, it's because what you're saying there. It's because of the sheer lack of matches he's had. Where I think the quality over quantity wins all the time. Come on, boys. It's the sheer. It's the magnitude of the matches as well. It's the Sami Zayn match, the Cody Rhodes match, 2 months in a row. These are big time story fucking atmospheric matches. These aren't in some fucking barn or some fucking low rent arena. These are in proper fucking stadiums, proper fucking. Not be serious, boys.
Where's the old Wrestle Kingdom? Some of these garage behind.
No, I know. The odd exception. He's touring around all the fucking little rinky-dink arenas as well, isn't he? But these are the proper emotional. As everyone knows, of course I'm emotionally involved with Roman, so that's why I'm picking him as well. I haven't felt involved in matches like he had for that first 6 months of the year. He did tail off with the tribal combat match. We all agreed on that, even myself. So I'm not saying every match.
Of his matches is that? That's like 20%, is it?
Yeah, but Ben, it's the quality over quantity. And if you're voting for the boxer as well, how many times do they, for boxing of the year, do they have 2-3 matches a year? Yes, they do. So you can go on that rationale as well. So come on. Fucking hell.
Oh god, this show's going to be 8 hours, isn't it? Fuck.
I don't know what no one in the fucking world's probably going to agree. Genuinely, I understand.
Roman Reigns will.
Yeah, but I can't.
I don't know.
I can't go against them.
People will go for him. And I think weirdly enough, like there's stuff you say about that first 6 months of the year and the kind of the scale of the matches he was involved in. It was also the run of pay-per-views that they were on as a company as well. And he was a massive fucking part of it at a time when the storyline was massively hot. And it's like what defines it, in many ways. Like, there is, in Ospreys, he was going for like a kind of a quantity and quality, but I can see the argument, mate. I've heard worse ones.
I haven't.
Benno's never going. Of course, he's not.
No, I mean, I just don't think there's an argument there at all. And I say this to the person who voted for Punk last year because, like, the argument you're making is surely an argument for Cody Rhodes or Sami Zayn. Like, does his? If we're talking matches, because the rest of it?
Being honest, Cody was close, and Gunther as well. Gunther, if we're going on sheer volume of matches, then Gunther for his TV stuff as well is there. But what's this? I already had Roman's match guide up. It's
good to know, lads. By the way, I can throw Roman Reigns' cage match up and get every match he had this year, including house shows, without putting any filters on one page. That's it. I don't have to do anything.
It's like when you go to a restaurant and you're getting a variety of things sometimes, but you get that one thing that's just that bit of quality, and that just sticks in there. You know what I mean?
From a quality point of view, though, he hasn't got one match in the top 20. So he hasn't got one singles match in the top 20 WWE matches this year.
See, that's a body blow, Gareth. That's just not right. That's just not right in any world. The main event of WrestleMania, though, that speaks volumes for everything. But there's been a few duds, hasn't there, over the years? Include with Roman in there himself in the duds in WrestleMania. So it was just good to see that a big time main event as well lived up to the billing. Because how many years have we been fucking, even myself, a bit of a letdown there.
Cody's got a heck of a case for Wrestler of the Year. We had that Brock Lesnar match as well,
No, Cody was close. Cody was definitely close, Benno. Definitely. But I'm just not emotionally involved or, his matches were good, of course they were, but I just didn't have the feels watching the matches with Cody. It just doesn't happen as much as it does with Roman, So
I was going to make an argument. I just wouldn't say the word matches because I think that's where you lose. Because I don't think there's anything else on that list that's even worth considering. It's them two. It's Cody and Sami, and they were at March and April. Outside.
No, but you everyone, the Civil War. Bloodline Civil War was, I'd say, was brilliant. I know we were there for that, and I was there for that, so I'm going to say that. But that's 4.5 stars as well rated. So it's like, I know we're on the, as you say, we're on the 6-star scale, but not to sniff your nose at, Benno. 4.5 stars.
Ratings count now as well.
I'm just saying, no, I'm just going on what you all go on. You know, I'm just going. I'm giving you facts. I'm giving you facts in front of you.
You should have led with business, Matty. That's what you should have.
Yeah, business is the argument.
No, but we can go into that for other awards, kind of. They want to blow me low daily.
I think the way you can make an argument for Roman, and the way people who will vote for him will go, is that he's been the top guy in WWE in a big year for WWE, in a massive year for WWE, in a year where they've, you know, basically become a babyface promotion over this year and have got their ducks in a row, and business is up, as we're alluding to there, and things are looking good. And yes, Roman's away for a lot of it, but I don't agree with the argument that he's not him and the Bloodline story isn't the root cause of why that business is doing so well. But I'd say he's got a pretty weak argument from an in-ring point of view.
I think
he's got an argument
as well. I just didn't want them matches to get blank. Obviously, there's been higher rated matches, of course, but I just didn't want them getting dismissed. Do you know what I mean?
It goes as well to, I think, the types of fans me, Gareth, and JV are, and probably a lot of people listening to this will be like, well, who's the wrestler here? It's the wrestler with the best matches. I think your argument would more be the wrestler with the best performances this year, because I think you would see a wrestler, maybe I'm speaking Matty here, a wrestler as somebody who delivers in ring, who delivers in promos, who delivers in the stories that they're telling,
his aura,
segments that are on TV.
Yeah.
All of those different things that he's performed in this year. Making your argument for you, make sure you haven't made one. Do you want that? You have them free.
Thanks for that, Benno. No, but that's too what you said, of course. But as I said, I just didn't want them getting dismissed, the matches, the magnitude of that WrestleMania main event, which it hasn't delivered in years, really, a main event. The Sami Zayn match, the emotion involved in that. I know, obviously, Sami deserves a great shout-out for that at the same time. But, and the Civil War, I thought, you know, the story going into that, which I'll probably go into a bit later on, it was just perfect. It's absolutely fucking perfect, that. So, and it's everything else you said as well, yeah.
Is that going to be the Women's Wrestler of the Year category when we bring that up? We'll find a way.
No.
Well, yeah, I'm arguing the Romans, the true wrestler who ticks all the boxes, as Ewan says there. But there we go. Didn't expect anything different. And like I say, I voted for Punk last year. I was tempted to do it again this year just because he's been so entertaining on and off screen. But I think even I'd struggle with that one. But yeah, some I'd say diverse picks there, divisive picks there. But yeah, let us know in the comments on the Patreon, on the Discord, what you think to that. But there'll be more Roman Reigns argument coming in a few minutes, but before we get there, female wrestler of the year, Gareth. I thought this was I don't know. I found this one a struggle. If you're not watching Stardom or Tokyo Joshi Pro every week like Carl, that's been a weakness this year. I think the women's division across obviously AEW, but like even WWE, it's not been Triple H's strong point as it was a few years ago with NXT. Interested in knowing where you went on this one.
Yeah, this is definitely one that I found a bit more tough this year, especially because there was no Serena Deeb this year either as well. So they were immediately consolidating the category there. But one I've gone with, I've enjoyed her work all year, and I think she's somebody who I've probably like based this more on kind of like how much she's progressed over the 12-month period. So I've gone with like Willow Nightingale on this. I think she's somebody that like over the course of the year, like I say, she just felt like she's got better and better. She's been put into some like pretty, decent positions where she's had, the Owen Hart and things like that. She got a decent push there. Obviously, she ended up carrying the belt for a bit with the Mercedes Moné injury and like New Japan Strong, and had some, good matches on the back of that as well. She had a couple of really, really strong matches with Athena in Ring of Honor as well this year, and like. She just feels like someone who she's been a bit of kind of like the glue, really, from an AEW women's division perspective, that she's been like put in there with a lot of different people. She's sort of always been reliable. She doesn't really shit the bed at all. She's she's someone who can you know, work with lots of different people from different styles and things like that. And I think as well is she's got over. I think she always gets crowd reactions. You know, people when she that music hits and she sort of comes through the curtain, crowd always respond to her as well, which, you know, is I think a big thing, because obviously you see a lot of women's wrestling where that's not the case, kind of thing. Like there hasn't been that character development, or there hasn't been that kind of like consistency of work sort of in ring that's got people going. Now I know there's going to be people who are like Stardom and Tokyo Joshi Pro and things like that, who there's going to be people out there who I know have had like more, you know, high quality matches and things like that. Even Athena, someone I'm referencing there, of like working with Willa Nightingale, I know she's had a good year in ROH. I just haven't seen enough of it. You know, I've probably seen 5 of the 10 matches that she's had. So that's one of those where I'd feel a bit fraudulent, really, to kind of like go on and give her my Female Wrestler of the Year award. So yeah, I'll stick with Willow. Good year for Willa Nightingale for me.
Definitely a little bit of support in the chat there. Quite a few Athena shouts as well, which is a similar kind of argument. But yeah, felt it's been a struggle this year. Matty, did you struggle to come up with yours?
I did, but I've decided, am I revealing mine right now? Yeah, I've gone with, and this might surprise a lot of people, I've gone with Becky Lynch. Now, I'm not a Becky Lynch fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I think, you know, she was, you know, that Trish Stratus feud did go on for a lot of months. And with that match getting left off SummerSlam, I think that lit a fire under Becky Lynch, because after that, I've just got a cage match, because I remember most of them. You've got the Falls Anywhere with Stark before the steel cage match with the Stratus. You got the steel cage match, which honestly was such a revelation at Payback. It was so good. Honestly, I wasn't expecting it to be that good. That match was unbelievable. And then you had her winning the NXT title. She beat Tiffany Stratton on TV, which was a good match. They had the rematch, the Extreme Rules match, which was really good. And then she went round doing the rounds, didn't she, with Tegan Knox, Indy Hartwell, and then she had that TV match at Halloween Havoc with Lyra Valkyria, which was another great match. And she's got the aura back. And I've never been a Becky Lynch fan at all. Really, like, been low on her over the years. But I think since SummerSlam, and she got left off that card, I think she's been really, really good. So I'll pick the Becky Lynch there.
How about you, JP? Either of those two?
Do you know what? I didn't, and I feel it's like a weird choice for me. I was thinking of which of the women have made like the kind of biggest impact, and this is going to sound like really strange, because even though I've more or less seen most of her matches, but I went with Rhea Ripley, because I think in terms of creating someone who feels like she is a star, she very much feels like she fits into that category. Her WrestleMania match against Charlotte Flair, I thought was excellent, and that's the kind of biggest stage. And yeah, a lot of the other matches, they're not necessarily great per se. This is like the anti-Will Ospreay kind of device. But her role in Judgment Day and how that works as an act, and how it's worked even kind of like almost in spite of the things that I would have thought would have gone to pieces, it's worked really well. And I think she just projects herself well as a star. It's just that she doesn't, and when she doesn't get to wrestle in those kind of like almost big high quality women's matches that she should do. And you know, but also this year, I think the problem has been thinking broader about why I didn't choose other people. For like Athena, I was kind of like Gareth. I would have felt like a fraud, because I'm thinking I saw her in those pay-per-view matches. I was really impressed and I heard a lot, but I never got just not enough time in my life to watch Ring of Honor, if I'm honest about it. But I get why. And in Japan, I haven't seen, I have to say, because in Stardom there's been so many injuries, like for me, like Julia's not had a banner year, neither has Shuri. There's been lots and lots of injuries, and it's sort of meant that I've not really necessarily followed the product as much. So yeah, I've gone with the Roman Reigns argument, as Chris says there.
It's interesting because that's what Steph went with Rio, and we were talking about before the show, because I was struggling. I was like, there's nobody who's got like a knockout case that's easy to make. I felt it was easy to make the Jamie Hayter case last year for me.
Yeah.
And the chat are saying it would probably be easy for you to have made the Jamie Hayter case halfway through the year. It's a lot harder as you get later on. And that's the thing about the Athena arguments. For me, it's more in theory than in practice. Now, the final battle match was almost enough to push me over the edge. because again, it's something we cover on the weekend show every week, isn't it, JP? Like it's Tony Khan's prep project on ROH, the Athena and Billy Stark stuff, and just seeing the angles building up to it and the promos and all of that stuff. Like, it almost feels like I believe all the people who are raving about Athena's matches at ROH TV. We're just not watching it, are we? Because it's ROH TV, and she's buried away there. Tony Khan even got asked on his presser, like, you're not considering, like, she's the one ROH champion that you're not actually using on your main TV. All of the men get over there. Why doesn't she? And I think it's that visibility thing. So, like, I think she's probably the right pick and the correct pick. But I can understand you going with Rhea, because that's, again, it's similar to the Roman argument, isn't it? As far as who's been pushed well as a female wrestler in wrestling this year, it's her. But it's without working matches, really, isn't it? It's without actually being an active competitor. So, like, I think all of our arguments are quite weak. I'm probably, by default, talking myself into still sticking with Jamie Hayter and sticking with her for the first half of the year. But it's not an argument I massively feel strong about. In prior years, I might have gone with a Bianca Belair. Is probably, if you ask me who's my favorite women's wrestler, like, it'd probably be her, between her and like a Jamie Hayter. But then you look up and down that AEW women's division, where it's like, okay, I'll find an answer there. Well, I don't want to vote for Saraya. I almost feel like saying Toni Storm by default, just because, it's Toni Storm and she's been pushed by it all this year, but I fucking hated every appearance she's had on TV in the last 3 months, and that's a bit of a race to the bottom as well. So for me, it's another unconvincing argument. It's Jamie Hayter, but it's based on the first half of the year, really. And it kind of speaks to, like, I know, again, like Gareth said, and like you've alluded to, JP, we're not necessarily talking Japan or elsewhere in the world. We are purely talking the visible Western promotions, but it's been a fucking shocking year, really, hasn't it, all around?
Yeah,
it's funny even you saying, like, Jamie Hayter though as well. Like, I forget that she was even, like, wrestling this year, kind of thing, when I'm seeing, like, a name come up in the chat, and it feels like forever that I've seen her wrestle. Like, I've got no idea what month she even got injured or anything like that. It's
and how much of the year for the AEW women was tied up in an Outcast versus Original feud that felt like it went fucking nowhere. Like, it ruined it. It kind of took away all of the kind of proper focus and everything else. And like, I have to say, I like really disliked it, like what that did in terms of the booking for it. But yeah, it's not a strong list, and there'll be match quality from Stardom and stuff, but I have to confess, I haven't seen enough of it, and B, that's partly because there wasn't really like a whole lot of buzz, because there was like an injury crisis which forced them to rebook loads of stuff, like even like Tam Nakano getting injured and having to, like, vacate the title. It's, you know what I mean? It feels like it's just not been a good year in the main for women's wrestling. You mentioned this is Triple H's weakest point when it comes to the booking as well.
It's even that, JP, you said before about the high quality banner matches with the women. Like, they saved that for, like, around WrestleMania a lot, don't they? Even like Io Sky's title reign. You know what I mean? They had like triple threat matches and stuff like that, and you're probably building to Aaron Bailey next year. There's a lot of good women, like you said, there's a lot of good women on WWE's roster, but they're just not getting that. If you get what I mean,
she's had
a weird time.
She's had as good a year as she can without being so much like the featured part.
Yeah,
but again, I don't like. It's pretty difficult when it's like the matches themselves aren't exactly absolutely outstanding when it comes to Io Sky. They're good, but then she's always having to kind of carry someone to a slightly better match than what they were capable of. And that's, wasn't enough for me.
Like, there's another universe where we're all, or at least this third of the quadrant, are probably saying Mercedes Moné. Like, if she hadn't gotten, injured herself halfway through the year, but with her, she'd barely done anything before then, had she? But if she'd have come into AEW and actually started working there proper, and you combine that with the New Japan and Stardom stuff, we might have been making that argument. We didn't even get that this year. It's kind of, it's piecemeal across the board. I think, for me, if anything, if Connor's filling in a spreadsheet, I'll probably say 50-50. I'll say Jamie Hayter for the first half of the year, and a fraudulent vote for the bits of Athena that I've seen from the second half of the year for me. But there isn't anybody who makes a whole for me this year, and that's sad to say, isn't it? And I think that's kind of true of the next category. Before we get to match of the year, we'll do tag team of the year as well, because it's another kind of derivative of wrestler of the year. Team of the year is the same kind of struggle, I think. Like, it is,
harder.
Like, a much harder year this year than I can think of in naming, even just naming tag teams who've been active. Like, you on instinct want to say Usos, and then it's like, well, yes, they've been a big part of the story. Maybe Matty will make that argument in a minute, but have they had like a resume over a year? Probably not. The Young Bucks is almost like a default answer, isn't it? But then it's like, I don't think I've liked 99% of what they've done on TV this year. And then FTR might be another default argument, but I don't know. Have you got anything stronger than that, Gareth?
Oh, I had to go really deep for this one because this was like one of the last things that I did, and I was like really, really struggling, and I just like I couldn't even think of anybody in AEW that I wanted to vote for, and I was sort of like racking my brains. What have I watched this year? And going through things, and ended up going to Impact for it, and ended up picking ABC, Ace Austin and Chris Bay. Like, they've had 2 title reigns this year, and I'm picking them purely on the basis of, like, I think it's an argument we always make usually make, and then I always make when I'm on the show and we're reviewing, like, Impact is just those pay-per-views delivering, and they're always guys that actually you take a step back and you go, yeah, pretty much every Impact pay-per-view that I've watched, they're always on there. They're always having like a really good match, kind of like early on in the show, that get things going, like consistent as fuck. They're a great act who've really like found themselves and working consistently together. They've had 2 title reigns in the year, but then when you look at, like, I was sort of like taking a step back and thinking, all right, some of the matches, and then having like a couple of really good ones with Motor City Machine Guns that I'd really enjoyed. I think that subculture match with Andrews and Morgan Webster,
so good.
we really fucking like enjoyed that match when we talked about it as well. And I'm probably leaning on a tag team there that I've maybe watched have 8 matches this year, or 7 or 8 matches this year, or something like that. But again, there's somebody who every time I've watched them, I'm enjoying them and thinking, fucking hell, these should be on a bigger stage. And these are like, what a good pairing these are. So they're almost like, it feels like my tag team of the year by default to some degree. But when I sort of wrote the list down and I looked, I was like, nah, I can justify putting them above absolutely everybody else there who are feasibly in the mix for me. So again, gone with those, and they just, let's say, they just feel like somebody now who I'm ready to see them just sort of like take that step up again, kind of, and just get some in an even bigger match that's a bit more prominent.
I like that, yeah, because they kind of have to go a bit different. I think this year I'll dive in and say, like, I don't know if you were thinking the same thing, JP. I want to make an argument for subculture, like, of a similar vein. Were you thinking the same thing? Because, like, who have I enjoyed more as a tag team when I've seen them this year? Probably them. Yeah, because it is such a race to the bottom. Is that what you were thinking too, JP?
Yeah, it really was. I wanted to make the argument for anyone but FTR, if I'm going to be completely frank about it. That's really where it was. And it just feels like it says more about the state of tag team wrestling. And I was talking about this with Matty as well. And it's a massive problem that you've got, like, effectively tag teams where there is so many, like, potentially good tag teams, and AEW being the place for them primarily. Like, where are they? We're not talking about the Acclaimed. We're not talking about no conversation about the Young Bucks whatsoever. You might hear about them on the other awards, when it comes to, like, because I think it's just been absolutely dire. It doesn't feel like it's been booked in a way, and I
was going to say Golden Jets, JP. You missed out.
I'm going to be like Benno. I'm not even going to make reference to their name. I think that poorly of them. But yeah, it's just been such a week. Yeah, I want to say subculture, because I think they've come back onto the scene, and do you know what? Fuck it. I'll call an audible on here. I don't want to choose FTR. Like, I can't say I've enjoyed it, and I actually actively think a lot of the big matches have under-delivered as well. Like, I mean, that Juice Robinson Jay White match feels like it's more of the exception than the rule, possibly at times. And maybe I'm absolutely spoiled on here, but the match against Aussie Open, which should have been something that was, like, outstanding, I don't know, didn't really deliver. I mean, yeah, we had the last of the Briscoes matches, didn't we? Like, earlier on in the year as well, didn't we? But they're IW. Was it? Oh, right, it was, wasn't it? Yeah, it wasn't there. Sorry. But, like, they're at the fucking Tokyo Dome. I completely forgot that. And, like, was a completely forgettable match in there. So, yeah, it just looking at their matches. Yeah, it's only that 2 out of 3 falls match, and then after that, it's just like, Christ, I feel a bit bored by a lot of their stuff, other than when they lost the titles to. So yeah, say something positive about subculture. There's a really good argument to go from. I've just made an argument for not choosing FTR.
I've talked to you about it. Well, that's where I
Yeah.
was. I was hovering over both subculture from the bits we've seen of Impact and from the bits we've seen in Rev Pro. I've enjoyed, but it feels a bit like an Athena argument that I want to make. It's like heart over head, really. I think head it probably still is FTR. It probably still is when you look at them, and you look at the the output they put this year. The 2 out of 3 4 matches on Collision is probably just enough to kind of grab it there. The Young Bucks match are all in was all right.
It was good for when he's sandbagging each other with the Northern Light suplex spot. I love that.
Oh, there was that. But then there's the other Jay White and Juice Robinson match that the other thought was very good. But again, that's a bit like me having to go at you and Roman Reigns. Well, why don't we vote for them then instead? Because that's probably their 2 best matches. Looking up and down the list that I've got, but yeah, they stand out, and it's almost like it's a race to the bottom, and they're just about.
Who's getting filled in, Benno, on the spreadsheet? Who's Connor filling in? Who are you going for?
I'm going FTR, but like I said, I don't want to. I want to make the subculture argument, but I think I've got to go FTR just based on that. They probably had at least the 2 better tag team matches that I've seen this year, as far as from distinct tag teams. And yeah, there's the Aussie Open match as well, which was strong in AEW, but maybe not as good as their match in Rev Pro too. So yeah, it's kind of like a by default argument for you. I don't know if you've got anything else, Matty.
No, my choice. Gareth stole me thunder with my choice because it was easy for me to go these shows, Benno. But as you say, like, I'll talk about them enough with other categories. So I wanted to mix it up a bit. And ABC is a tag team that I'll go out my way to watch. If I know they're in a decent match, I'll go out my way to watch it. That Andrews and Webster match. I mean, honestly, that was my surprise match of the year when seeing them 2 in there. And I thought, it'd be good with ABC in there. I'm not dismissing the guys, but I thought, oh, this would be sound, but it was fucking amazing. Like we were all waxing lyrical about it at the time. But then you had the matches with the Guns and then with the Rascals as well. But I just love everything about them. Always loved Ace Austin, as you know, Benno, and Chris Bayes, another wrestler I've always been a fan of, and just throwing them together as a tag team part of the Bullet Club. It's like they just work so well, don't they? And they're over because of the Bullet Club stuff and that. So yeah, I'm going ABC all day long now.
Oh, good lad.
Good shout. Should have known. You going in that route, yeah. And there you go. Solid representation for Impact. Then, if with JP.
Exactly. I think again, let's face it, WWE really don't do kind of proper tag team wrestling. There's a shout here from Chris in the chat mentioning like the Creed
next
brothers.
Year. Yes, I agree. Next year, they'll be in the running.
You'd hope that to be the case. New Japan have been enormously disappointing. It just feels like it's Bishamon. They just pick a tag team, they go with them. They have intermittent runs and they drop it to another team for like 2 months, and it's rinse, recycle, repeat. It's the same formula again and again. And so the other teams in there, like War Dogs, I want to like them, but they haven't really done anything, and they don't really in that company. And in AEW, it's like, it's amazing. We're not talking like the Acclaimed would never get mentioned, but then they just don't even seem to wrestle as a
trios,
tag team anymore.
That's what I mean.
Trios. The bastard division again, ruining tag team wrestling, I reckon.
Which has been around for 18 months. How unbelievable.
JP, as you said, it's all more through together. Like you said the other day, like even like the Judgment Day, even Starks and Bill, they're all just through together, and just it's like random moments here and there. Haven't been together too long. It's just been a weird year for tag teams overall, definitely. Yeah. Even Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, you know what I mean? I've got to give them a shout out. They were together really for like four months or so.
Main event of WrestleMania, isn't that 10 extra votes? Is that not how we
they were in the honourable mentions, with these shows, of course. We'll talk about that match in a bit, mate, you know what I mean?
I bet you will. What are you going to say, JP?
I was just going to quickly say, hopefully next year we're talking about grizzled young veterans. Like being kind of in that stuff, because it's set up for them.
Well, let's get into one where I think there is going to be a lot of options, because I think it has actually sneakily been a good year. I struggle with this one, and it's one of the big ones. If Wrestler of the Year isn't the biggest, then I think Match of the Year absolutely is. Like I say, RIP the Grapple app, but yeah, I had a few noted down in the old trusty spreadsheet, and yeah, there's a few candidates here for this one, and despite maybe my misgivings about promotion wise, I've got couple of promotions covered here as well. But yeah, Gareth, if you want to go forth, you're the first to talk the ins and outs of matches. You are our match guy, as Matty would said. Did you struggle this year to put yours together?
I think it was more like I had like 3 in my head that I just immediately went to, and I think recency bias has just probably just won out in the end, because I'm just going back to that Swerve Strickland Hangman Page match at Full Gear. For me, that was just something that I just said when we reviewed the show, a month ago or whatever, just instantly just went full 5 on it. It was just something that it was just one of the matches that you watch where you just proper off your seat, and it was just everything about it. You were just completely engaged with it. Just the fucking brutality of it, just the layout of the match from start to end, with the just the way it was structured, and the way that it changed hands in the middle of the match in terms of dominance and things. It was just something that I just fell in love with that match from the second I started watching it till the second I ended watching it, and it was just the brutality involved and things. Just absolutely loved it. Now, at the other end of the spectrum, close run thing for me was the start of the year, was that Ospreay Omega match, which was the only other 5-star match that I went all year, and so that was close in the pecking order. But I haven't watched that since the 4th of January, and so it's further away in my mind. And probably if I put the two side by side, if I put the two side by side, I just think the grittiness and realness and brutality of the one I've gone with wins out on that front. So yeah, clear as a bell in my head, that one for my match of the year.
Deathmatch, Gareth, I love it. Always knew you had it in you, mate. Always knew. All you needed was a man drinking blood spot to bring it onto the team.
Hey, no, it's blood and weapons with purpose, Benno, and reason and meaning. That's I love it. Love a bit of blood and weaponry. Just don't just be
no wrist locks there, Gareth. Was there?
Yeah, don't be hitting someone with a fucking lawnmower after 1 second of the match just because.
Swerve's not above that either, but no, you're right. He's very much on the slight. He is a deathmatch worker, he is. He's one of the best. But he comes from that. He comes from blood. He comes from that CZW world and such as well. So yeah, brings us a smile to my face. I might be chatting something quite similar in a bit when we get around to mine. But Matty, your match of the year, mate.
This was tough. This was really tough for me.
I know, mate. You had 9 picks, didn't you? How many was there on Cage Match? Yeah.
No, this was all based around WrestleMania, though, because there was obviously the Gunfest, Sheamus, and Drew McIntyre, just slugfest, chopfest. Yeah, that was amazing. It was just the fans. Even Titus O'Neil on commentary didn't ruin that one, JP. He was adding to it, if anything. And then you've got obviously Roman and Cody, which I was so close for going with, just for the absolute fume afterwards, because I fucking live for all that. And I really hope it happens next year. Fucking really hope it does. But I'm going to go with the
Roman Reigns versus Rey Mysterio from the WWF house show in
Mexico City. No, I'm going to go with the Usos versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn of night 1 of WrestleMania. Even as JP said, I missed the Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley. I thought that was an incredible match as well on the WrestleMania night 1. But I'm going to go with the tag team main event. It was, which people, obviously, I'm a Roman guy, but I'm an Usos guy, and people forget about that side story on the lead up to WrestleMania. Everyone was talking about Cody finishing the story, but that tag match had just as many great angles. You had the one where Sammy thought Jay was going to side with him, and then he just turned on him in the entranceway, and you had that emotion of the hug of Owens and Zayn getting back together, where Sammy's acting all scared in the build-up, which was fucking brilliant, and the fans going for it. And then just that as well, I'm far from a tag team guy, but just seeing a tag team title match in the main event was just refreshing and something different, but it earned its right in its own way. Obviously, being a part of the overall picture of the bloodline, this was earned it all the way thing, and it delivered. It was absolutely incredible. The fans were loving it. The finishing stretch was amazing. So many near falls, just a really, really good match. And yeah, my match of the year, definitely.
John Paul.
Well, it's really tough with this one because it's almost like I've put Will Ospreay as Wrestler of the Year, and part of the problem with doing that is there's so many great kind of Ospreay matches, which in their mind, a lot of them end up cancelling each other out. But I do want to mention, like, so that's why I've gone as my match of the year for a lot of the same reasons Gareth has, is Swerve Strickland versus Hangman Page at Full Gear. I thought it was absolutely fucking incredible, and it stood out like by like a country mile for me on that show, which probably helped with it. But it was one of those times of seeing a death match that just kind of made sense. Like we'd had the kind of reasonable build to that as well, and it just blew me away. And it is very much my kind of like wrestling as well. There's stuff I almost want to give a shout out to, like, you know, stuff that was like very, very close to it. Like I wanted to give a shout for actually Ospreay versus Shota Umino, which I thought was incredible. That was the one towards the end of the year. I thought that was just like, honestly, like fucking incredible match. And also Kento Miyahara versus forgotten his name. It's ridiculous. Katsuhiko Nakajima. How the hell have I forgotten his name? Nakajima. And it was an incredible match that they had. And obviously they're going to be having a rematch as well this year. So technically, and it's on New Year's Eve, so technically it could end up being better than this one. But they were like incredible matches. But just, for a lot of the same reasons that Gareth said. And there is that recency bias. But Swerve Hangman was just my kind of wrestling. Fucking loved it. It was great.
It's interesting because like that was in my consideration. And I do think there's last year I think I had the struggles if we did on a 10-1, top 10 grapple matches of the year. I had a struggle to do 10, and that's part of the reason we stopped doing it. This year, I think I'd actually do a better job of it because I was looking up and down like the list of stuff I've kind of got noted down, and it's pretty much a lot of the ones you have mentioned there. If Cody had finished the story, maybe that one would be in there too, Matt. But it's that one just does sit to the side. But Drew Gunther.
Oh, that's got 1,000 chapters in that story.
Was great that about we floating around the tail end of a 10. As I mentioned before, the only reason FTR have managed to like kind of elbow their way in is that match with Jay White and Juice Robinson, so that would be like somewhere in the tail end of my 10 as well. The two Omega Ospreay matches, I think, are the immediate ones that come to mind for most people, and I think I actually prefer the second to the first, but it's close enough with those two, so I wouldn't argue with them. And then when it comes to Swerve and Hangman Page, maybe I'm trying to be a contrarian too much here, but like I love that one, but I actually think Hangman and Moxley is slightly better, and it's only slight, and it's probably only the finish. They're both perfect as far as, like Gareth said, using violence, but it meaning something, using violence, but using it to tell a story. And I suppose the knock on Hangman and Moxley, which is my pick, and it would be my number one for the year, is that unfortunately there wasn't much follow-up. Because the thing about what was so perfect about that match was you forget going into that, and I suppose coming out of it, unfortunately, Hangman was just like, he's the Hangman we've been moaning about these last couple of years. And I can't think of a match, maybe outside of the Swerve Hangman match, that has made somebody in the way that Moxley made Hangman. Like that visual of him hanging him over the ropes at the end of that match will stick with me forever. Like that was a 5-star match. I've given that 5 stars, and it's of my list that Swerve Hangman, which I believe I went 4.75 on that. I think I leaned 4.75, but I could have gone 5 on it. And the two Omega Ospreay matches are the only ones that have like I've either gone 5 or hovered near 5 on. And it's for all those reasons. And it does actually make me rethink, like, you know what? Like, I suppose with what we've said with the women's division and the tag division, in another year where Ospreay hadn't been so consistent through the year, on top of having 2 of those matches, I might have made an argument for Hangman Page, or I might have even made an argument, I'm sure people will, for Swerve. I think the Swerve is more like that Roman Reigns argument I made for Matty before, where it's like just the cumulative effect of his year, the promos, the way he's carried himself, mostly the angles, just not all of them, and all of that stuff. you know, you could make an argument for him. And Hangman, for the bits where he's been on fire, specifically around these 2 matches, you could make the argument for him as well. It's just kind of, he had that dead period before and after. But yeah, it'd be a close one for me between those two. So I wouldn't argue too much with JP and Gareth. But yeah, just to be slightly different, yeah, put the Moxley match just over the edge. But I think we were all high on that. I think you two were floating around 5 stars on that one at the time as well at Revolution.
I said, well, I mean, I said there when I was doing my match of the year there that there was 3 matches that were in consideration. I mentioned Osprey Omega, and that was number 3. Based, you know, they're the 3 matches that are in my head, and just the more recent one just picked it. Yeah, I've turned. It's just I just love a bit of fucking brutal, real Hangman Page as opposed to anxious millennial cowboy. Just I think ass kick a Hangman Page, take some fucking beating.
and the thing that again gets forgetting as well, that same night, Bryan Danielson and MJF had a fucking hell of an Iron Man match too.
Wanted to say that. I gave that 5 stars.
That goes in honourable mentions too. Yeah. I can't remember on the night. I was close on both of them, but just about preferred the Hangman match. But yeah, that could be in the conversation too. That's maybe more of a 4.5 for me.
But yeah, if I mean, and we haven't mentioned Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. or you know what I mean. It's been in terms of actual in-ring wrestling, there has been some seriously great in-ring wrestling. Not always necessarily like tag team, but like there has in the main been some really, really good, great stuff out there. Like we've said before, it's some of the other stuff that kind of packages it and where they move on from it as well. But yeah, I want to say about MJ. I mean, MJF in other years, and I feel like we're going to probably be talking about him on the crappies rather than the grappies. But I was looking through, like in terms of his matches as well, and I was thinking, my God, I loved the 4-way double or nothing that he ended up having, as well as like the, you know, even to a degree the mentioned there about the match with Danielson there as well at the same time. I mean, his match. Not necessarily with Adam Cole, but with I like the match with like Samoa Joe. You know, there was stuff about him that I thought he was all right up to a point, and then it seemed to go entirely off a fucking cliff. So it was like on principle, I thought I couldn't go with any of those. But yeah, it's been a really good year. That's the area that AEW have definitely delivered on. Moxley Orange Cassidy, which was
JP. I was just about to jump in. That's probably the AEW match I've enjoyed the most. The whole story going into it of like Cassidy on this title run, because I kept getting told it was one of the greatest title runs, like TV runs in history. Got roped into that match, and even Moxley when he won, just nod of approval. I loved all that, and I know stuff happened after it with the injuries and getting stripped and stuff, but that finishing thing, I was so invested in that. That was so good. Yeah, got to give that a shout out for AEW.
That'll be We'll see if it comes up again in this
show. Love it. Some great shouts there. So yeah, moving on from a match of the year, it does feel like it flows well to go into I'd say pay-per-view of the year or show of the year. I suppose is the better way of wording it. Threw out a couple of big bangers on Revolution there. That definitely makes it an argument for me. But I've got to say, like almost like I feel like if Tony Khan's listening to this, I imagine there's going to be a lot of AEW talk right now, because I think there's not going to be a lot of AEW talk when we get into the negative awards, but as far as like big shows go, I had a lot to think about when it comes to show of the year. But what say you, Gareth? What's your show of the year for 2023?
Yeah, this was one where you've mentioned it already. There, you've mentioned one of the matches from it, or you've mentioned 2 of the matches from it. I'm just going back to March and just going to AEW Revolution 2023 because that's the pay-per-view that just sticks out in my mind for a variety of reasons, as well as that fucking fantastic like Texas Death match between Hangman and Moxley been on there as well. The main event, MJF Danielson, which I didn't go full 5 on, but because I wasn't into the finish, but the fucking 60 minutes that went before it, or 63 minutes that went before it, or something like that, were absolutely outstanding, just out of this world stuff. So to get 2 matches on a card so different but so absolutely brilliant in their own way, like makes that stand out like massively from that point of view. But just as it was like going over it and just like going over my old notes and thinking about it and things like that, like hate trios wrestling, but that was a fucking great trios match between the House of Black and the Elite on the show. It was kind of like, you know, it was one of them, like really fucking enjoyed that. And then also you had the, you know, good payoff on the Christian Cage stuff, whereas I'll be talking about Jack Perry a bit more in the second show that we record today. But just as far as that match was, and more so Christian's work in that match as well, with the whole build up to get to that point, that was something that I really enjoyed as well there. So it was definitely a card there where you had 4 matches that, for a variety of different reasons, was something that like really strongly resonated with me. But when you take the 2 best matches on the card, you struggle to find another show anywhere in the world in 2023 that had 2 matches that good and that diverse on them.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that, JP?
Well, this ties into how we speak about, you know, AEW on Spotlight in the main. We've had many criticisms of the TV product, and then we've often always said, then they'll have a big show and they've got some of the best wrestlers in the world and they'll put on the best shows. And that is the case. And I think there's a hell of an argument for Revolution. The one I want to go with is the one that I didn't want to go with, because I almost hated its existence as much as anything else, and it's All Out. Which obviously, it's amazing that the 80,000 show that I went to live and was stood in the middle of Wembley, and it's going to sound ridiculous, it didn't even really come into the figuring for like what I thought was show of the year. Like experience, yeah. Like there isn't stuff I'm going to, you know, it was kind of incredible. But as a show, I thought it was like very good. But All Out, because I wanted to hate this. I really wanted to hate it. And it's kind of the argument. If you go through some of the matches there where you just think to yourself, like, fuck me, Danielson versus Ricky Stark in the strap match was fucking great. Takeshita versus Kenny Omega in the singles match. And we all correctly thought then afterwards the TV will then build Takeshita into being this massive fucking star, which never obviously happened on there. Part of our problem with it. And then, as Matty mentioned earlier on, Moxley and Orange Cassidy for the International Championship, and it was almost like out of spite they produced this great card. Why? Because they've got these brilliant fucking wrestlers. But yeah, and it's, you know, it feels very similar to last year where we went with Forbidden Door, and we hated the build to that, hated the build to All Out, which is done in a week, just throwing shit together. It was ridiculous. And yet they end up producing show of the year. It just makes me kind of annoyed as to, well, why don't you do a kind of good level of planning in for it as well? But yeah, there you go.
I almost want to say All In just to troll everyone for all the moaning we did going into it, JP, to be like, and you know what though? What a day I had on the time. That might come up actually in another award. Maybe we'll do that award next just to tie it in perfectly. But I won't do the troll vote. Yeah, I was close to doing All Out like you, JP. I really was. It was that was one way for me. It was expectations versus reality. It was like, you know, we going in, we were like, fuck, another pay-per-view already. Like we had all of our, similar to All In, we had all of our complaints going in. And then it wasn't even just saying that it wasn't even just a case of low expectations and then it being blown away. It was low expectations, and then the show was great by anybody's standard too. Like kind of as you've just alluded to there. That's what you've got to give Tony Khan, though. That's what I was alluding to before. You've got to, you know, I don't disagree with him when he says they've had one of the greatest pay-per-view runs of all time. Like, there's an argument for Wrestle Dream in there as well. Again, as much as a concept that was maligned like the others, ended up turning out on the night because that had, you know, the great Swerve and Adam Page match in there as well. Yeah, the first one, obviously Danielson, Zack Sabre Jr. as you mentioned before, and even the FTR Aussie Open match that was there too. Like, there's a big list of that. You could even go into mention an ROH. You know, Supercard of Honor this year was fantastic for an ROH show. Final Battle was pretty damn good, recency bias, but that's in there too. But yeah, I can't really argue with Gareth. I go Revolution, and it was having that thought process of, okay, what's my match of the year, and 2 matches from the same show coming up. That immediately tells you. And yeah, I back up everything Gareth said on it. Like, trios matches on for me, but yeah, House of Black and the Elite was great on the night. Jack Perry and Christian Page, wasn't necessarily, your great in-ring match, but it was well built, and it was, part of, I almost want to mention it just because I'm not sure what else I'm going to get in a lot of praise for Christian Cage, but it was part of, the peak of his character this year, doing the what's they call the Bury the Live match, Final Burial or something like that, wasn't it called? But it was a great moment for him. That combination, like that show, and then into all in and all out period, that was the peak Christian Cage for me. He's still been great the rest of the year, but it's almost like he's too in on the joke now, or everyone's too in on the joke now. It's still great, but not as great as I enjoyed it during that period. And yeah, there was a stinking Ricky Starks and Chris Jericho match on that card that I just didn't enjoy. But I'm kind of always going to be like that with Jericho stuff. But yeah, just you give me 2 match of the year candidates on a show like that, and I've got to go with it. But the competition level is massively high with big AEW shows this year.
God, yeah. And we haven't mentioned again Forbidden Door, which was kind of all right. It was again, it's the expectations. I think we had higher expectations, and it maybe didn't end up. Nearly on that.
Danielson kind of let us down, didn't he?
And I know we haven't gone to Matty yet, so I kind of don't want to steal his thunder. But there is a point that Matty's going to make, in terms of WWE's big shows that can't be negated. But I'm going to get into that in a little bit, so I'll shut up.
Yeah. So did you manage to get the tape of that house show from Mexico, or
I paid good money for that, Ben. I'd actually pay me own money for that. Platt, do you work, mate?
Go ahead, Matt. Go ahead. Just do yours.
Yeah, I've got to pick WrestleMania. I mean, have I got to pick one night, or can I have it as a collective? Because that's the
one night, mate.
This sounds like the attendance arguments we were having on Twitter at the time. Well, all in as a draw as well as
WrestleMania.
2 nights of WrestleMania films. Yeah, yeah. There's 30 nights of G1. Do you want to combine them as well? No, I think you got to.
As an overall, it's probably one of the greatest WrestleManias that there's ever been. It genuinely was that good. But it's got to be night one. If I'm picking a night, it's got to be night one, because apart from the opener where I clearly couldn't have been asked John Cena put Austin Theory over, we had people forget. One of my surprises of the year was that 4-way showcase tag match: Street Profits, Strowman and Ricochet, Alpha Academy, Viking Raiders. 8 minutes long, JP, but all got the shit in. You had the rolling suplex to Braun Strowman. You had shooting star presses to the outside by Ricochet. Great stuff. That was followed up by Seth Rollins v Logan Paul, which was, what you'd expect from a Logan Paul match. That delivered. You had a 6-woman match with Damage Control, Trish, Lita, and Becky. That, wasn't the best, but, earned its place on the card. Then from there, you had Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio, with obviously one of the greatest entrances of all time from Dominic Mysterio. What a great match that was, JP. And the finish set up, a match at the next pay-per-view, which I'm going to wax lyrical about in one of the other awards. That's why I haven't mentioned it yet. I'm glad you haven't. And then we've mentioned it a couple of times, Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair, which was an incredible match for the SmackDown Women's title. We had Benno. Unfortunately, we didn't have the Shane one on night one, Benno. We had that's night 2. One of the moments of the year. But we had Pat McAfee beating The Miz in the second to last match. But then obviously we had my match of the year as main event. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens beating the Usos definitively for the tag belts. Just a great show, and just good to see WrestleMania, back to its absolute best. So, yeah, all day long for me.
2-horse race then, night 1 versus night 2.
But also, it was the night of my wedding party, so it holds a candle for that as well, Benno.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Didn't even get to watch that live, did you?
No, I watched it the next morning.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that weekend. Jesus. Yeah, I enjoyed Mania this year. I did, more than I have in a long time. And this was before Vince was fully out. But Mania Night 2, like you say, is a great shout too, despite the pain of the ending for me. And that's one of the things I think they're fixing. That Mania is that big tentpole. It is our best show of the year. You look at the bill for next year, there's 4 or 5 different matches that are at least night 1 main event worthy. I'm sure Roman Cody's going to be the night 2 main event, but we're back to Mania being that. We're back to people being excited about WrestleMania in December. That was lost for a few years, and I felt like that was rekindled this past year, and is probably going to be even more so going into next year.
Yeah, it's
There we go.
the big success story of that company is it's those early year pay-per-views.
Well, as you mentioned it, JP, do you want to throw in like our favorite? Should we do our? Used to be the Grapple Gareth about this because he was the only one of us who bothered his ass to go see Brit Res. I don't know what your count is this year, Gareth, of Brit Res show. I think I've seen more non-Brit Res shows than Brit Res shows live this year. I don't know if you're the same, but should we do favorite live show? Or we're talking best show of the year.
Oh, we should do that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Do you want to me to do mine? Fight. Oh. Can I
not down if we say the same thing? Or what have you got, Gareth? Oh, genuinely, is it edit from Brit Res? Is it
It is from Brit Res. It's yeah.
Old school.
Not too old school. It's Copper Box Arena. It's Rev Pro the night before Wembley.
Yeah,
you loved that, didn't you?
Which I just absolutely loved that show. I thought I had had the best fucking weekend, but that show was absolutely fantastic for just things delivering on that show. Like I loved the Zack Sabre Jr. Ricky Knight match. Thought that was absolute class, but all in all, like it was just topped off with the Ishii Luke Jacobs match, which was just my kind of match. And then just seeing like Luke in that scenario again as somebody who you've sort of like seen on smaller shows over the years and things like that, put in that position, put on with that opponent in front of that crowd on a British wrestling show was just like right up there really with like moments of the for me. And then you've gone through that and then you top it off with having like Will Ospreay against Shingo in the main event, which is just like, Ospreay pulling out one of his 20 fucking bangers of the year sort of thing, going up against Shingo, who's just been a great opponent for him over the years as well. And just getting to see that live, and it's just been different, been a bit shorter, been like a 20-minute match kind of thing. So it didn't have the same like longevity as some of the other stuff as well. Just 3 just belt matches just to see live. And I think in a world where you're going to British wrestling shows these days and you're not seeing that quality anymore, something like that in front of a crowd that size just stood out like a sore thumb and just made you think like, fucking hell, this is like, this feels different. This feels like this is what we had almost kind of like back in the day, or like a little bit. It was a bit kind of like made you a little bit regretful, but in a positive way kind of thing of where the scene is now and stuff like that. But equally, it just made it just feel so much better for it. And obviously a great company on the day, and got to see like loads of people from within the chat and the patrons and things like that in the building, and have good conversations with different people as well. So just all in all, live show of the year for me, that easily.
Yeah, I'm glad you've said that, because I always felt bad that like, because it's on the weekend of All In, when it came to the podcast to talking about it, we had to talk about the biggest show in British wrestling history that had, we thought 80,000 people in the building at the time, and spent like 3 hours talking about it, didn't we? And it was like, oh, and by the way, the fucking Rev Pro show was great too. And it almost got lost, didn't it, in that news cycle, because also CM Punk was a fucking cunt backstage, so there was that to talk about as well. And it felt like as quickly as it came, it went again, and that's the negative of running that big weekend, isn't it? For a Rev Pro, you get the positive of piggybacking on the big AEW show, and the positive of drawing many times more than the Progress did down at the ballroom, and it's something that more victory lap should have been done by, because it was a British wrestling company like filling the copper box like that, to the point where even you were there, Matty. There's that's your British show. That's got to be your British show of the year.
Gareth can attest to me jumping out my seat many times. One of my favourite matches I've been to probably ever was Michael Oku v Trent Seven. I was going ballistic during that match.
Yeah.
That was fucking made for me. That the table spots, some rough table spots as well, and just the whole story based around everything. I fucking love that match. So if we're picking Brit Res shows, then it's that. But if we're picking overall shows, then it's got to be Money in the Bank for me. It's like I've never had an experience like it in my life, and I don't think I will. Honestly, boys, like, everyone, the listeners follow me story of actually getting a fucking ticket in the end, Benno. I actually traveled down on my own, and, I just, honestly, I can't describe that 24 hours. I genuinely can't. I'm getting goosebumps now, look at my ears. Just that honestly, but I know I'll go on about it, but that storyline, the Civil War, I can't tell you how much I was into that more than anything I've been into in so long. It just dragged me in, and to be there I had to be there for that match. I just had to be there for the entrances, the atmosphere, the whole 9 yards, and to see actually Roman getting pinned for the first time in I don't know how long as well, just give it that little cherry and building up to the SummerSlam match. But just had an incredible meeting yourself and Steph Benno on the day as well for that. It was just honestly just unbelievable stuff. And I don't think I'll ever, it'll ever be topped ever. Loved it.
I've never seen you so happy as well. Like when we met you outside, didn't we? Where it was like,
the DJs, Benno, the bars, yeah.
It was the vibe was kind of up, and it was just like, oh, Matty's in heaven here, like the big WWE show, and it's in the UK, and we're all here, and it was just, it was great to get to see you there, and like you'd made the effort to do it and stuff as well, and made that perilous journey down on a London.
Stop off at Crew, Benno, the hour to go get a coffee, and then getting off, going to meet own hotel on my own in some like haunted hotel. If obviously the listeners would be the story you told on the spotlight after it, but it was just right on Canary Wharf, JP. Just the view, just at the time of my life, mate. Just honestly, a whirlwind 24 hours that. Just, apart from my wedding this year, like don't get me wrong in New York. Apart from that,
take step at some point. Remember,
like, I've got to take it now. We'll be top. Like just incredible.
Matty in that London, definitely a highlight of our podcast this year. That my main memory of that is like being there in the crowd, obviously the opposite end of you, because you ended up with a great seat as well, didn't you? One of the extra seats. You knocked
right above the entrance.
Yeah, there was no stage, was there? So like they opened up more seats, and you got one of those great seats there. But I just remember being sat in my seats, and you're like texting me, asking me to take photos from my end. Like you were like, get a video of Roman's entrance. I was like,
I was behind Benno when he's coming down the aisle. I haven't got the actual from the front. I've got him from behind.
I still think WWE and their HD cameras are probably doing a better job of getting a video of Roman's entrance than me. But I still did it for you and sent it over.
You did. To be fair, Ben, you're a true friend for that, mate.
Closest thing to having your own one. But it enhanced my enjoyment you being there as well. So it was a cracking weekend. I'll go next if you don't mind, JP, because like for me, it's been like between those two shows, as much as I'm a WWE hater at times, that was a great experience being live at that show, an amazing atmosphere, and just a great day out for all the reasons Matty just mentioned as well. But I'll do the bit I was going to do before, JP. All In's probably the best live show I've been to this year, or the most. It's hard because, like, I think Rev Pro runs it very close. I think maybe from a match point of view, I think Rev Pro's got them pipped, absolutely, because you mentioned Ishii Jacobs on its own. Is that better than anything that was on All In? I would absolutely say yes. But I can't escape the fact that we were all live at Wembley for a wrestling show with 70 to 80,000 people there. And just that experience of the day, say what you want about the build, and we fucking did, and we were right. Say what you want about, the matches and stuff, because like there isn't, I don't think, a match of the year candidate there. Joe and Punk feels like one that's been maybe retconned since that people talk about in those terms. I loved it, don't get me wrong, but
I thought you jabbed that in there. That was your match of the year. Genuinely thought you.
I was surprised. That's what I thought you were alluding to before. Yeah. No, it's not even close. Like it's not even a consideration for me. But this is why this is a war that's different. This isn't show of the year, it's live. Show of the year, it's experience of the year.
Yeah.
And again, being there in Wembley for wrestling, being there in Wembley for Punk versus Joe, like I say, to see them two make their entrance and do references to their previous matches, and then to also find out, and it shouldn't add to the experience, that Punk was being a come backstage getting into fights, that almost enhanced the experience for me as well. Just knowing that was happening, like I was going to say meters away from me, a couple of miles away from me from where I was sat in the backstage area, but that was fucking added to the day as well. But like just as a spectacle, it's like it's the Mania argument, isn't it? It's being there to see Sting make his big entrance. It's being there for Ospreay to be as over as it turned out he was. That surprised us all. JP, I love the copper matches, as Ewan says there. That's definitely in there as far as match wise go. I really didn't enjoy MJF and Adam Cole, but it worked for the audience there live. But yeah, we're talking. I think when you're talking live show versus show of the year, I think you're more talking the live experience there. And Rev Pro runs it close because that was a great live experience, but I just think it's hard to top Wembley, JP.
I have to agree with you on that. Although I do want to give a shout out to All In It as well. Well, exactly. Well, we're nothing if not like we're not easy to pin down on a lot of this stuff. Like you can equally like really enjoy something without it being like the best thing that you've ever seen. They're not always like kind of mutually inclusive of each other. And it
I
was
saw that. We were in the building, right? Sting's making his entrance. I happened to pull my phone out, and some fucking gobshite American who's one of the worst of them was like, see, the Brits aren't moaning now about the Bills. I was like, well, no, because we're all here. All of us are here in this stadium trying to have a nice time and having the great day out we knew we were going to have at the big occasion that we knew it was. We just wish we knew that building in, but you can't say the live experience was different than any live show I've ever been to in my entire life. I've been to a Mania back when it wasn't as big as Manias are now, you know, and it was in Chicago in an arena rather than in a stadium. I've never done stadium wrestling before, and this eclipses any live experience I've ever had, despite, I think, the right misgivings we had, JP.
I've not done Mania. I've not done the Tokyo Dome. This is, it's I haven't got a ticket for this one coming up this year. It was like the first time I've been in a stadium. I stood on the Wembley pitch. It was mental. And you mentioned during the Sting match, just thought, I want to see how far I can take the piss here at Wembley and just sort of stand up by the camera. And I do say the Coppermocks had like not only the great matches that you mentioned and the kind of like seeing British wrestling in that kind of like stature again. Charlie got to meet Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer as well at the same time, which
I'm not sure. Picture that JP, one of the best.
Exactly, which was mental in and of itself. Just like that picture and everything, I thought, things have gone completely berserk. But it's just the idea of like walking into Wembley, and it's that kind of people watching thing you do. As we always think of ourselves, okay, so who are the people who are here? Who are the people who are like kind of most engaged with it? Who are they really into? And it was the first time in this country that we got to be part of this like mass survey of what is actually the stuff that these people are into, and then seeing, fuck me, Ospreay's massively over. That in and of itself is just like a kind of an experience, having seen him, like we all have, wrestling in front of like 50 to 100 people. And here he is, like in front of between 70 or 80,000, just to provide to avoid any grief on that front. But it's hard not to say that. Like, I don't know if I'll get to go to a Mania. I don't know if I'll get to go to a Tokyo Dome. But I went, to what sold the most tickets, to stay on the right side of a phrase, for any wrestling show in history. And it was like being stood on the floor for that. And that can't be discounted. The Bills... Listen to the second show on patreon.com/grapple.
We'll talk about that. But it's like you said, Gareth, like there was definitely points, because you said it, I was like, that's exactly what I did, where I was just looking at the heads in the crowd and trying to make my brain understand how many people were in front of me, and trying to make my brain understand like this, how many multiples of 700 or so I might have seen an average like big Brit Red show in the past, or however many multiples of Copperbox the night before, or any wrestling show actually on record that you can think of. It was more than all of those, with a couple of exceptions now that we have the number crunching done on it. Like, that was the thing. It was trying to train my brain to understand what I was taking in around me.
That's it. Just the magnitude of it. Like, because again, everyone always talked about, SummerSlam and things. And it was just one of those things that I was old enough to have gone to, but never went to. So it was always that like regret in the back of your mind that I wasn't there. I wasn't there for that massive British wrestling show that's gone down in history. So just being in the building for it just felt huge. And then like, I think about all the time being stood up where I'd like gone to get some scran, and then suddenly hearing Samoa Joe's music hit, and then being like fuck, and just like legging it out of the queue with like where I'd been queuing for a while to get some food, because I was just like fuck, it's Joe Punk, like now kind of thing, and then legging it down the steps at that time. And that was like, because obviously that was so early in the show, just seeing then that vastness of people while Samoa Joe's music's going on, knowing that CM Punk's coming out in a second, it was just like, fucking hell, I can't believe I'm here and this is happening. Like, it was a mind-blowing experience, but not as good as Rev Pro.
I think that's what we have to agree. It was the weekend. JP mentioned all in it as well. It's all of those things together. The night out on the piss we had after the Rev Pro show as well. Like, you put those four events together. What a fucking weekend! That's my life experience of the year. It's all of that together. Even I was hanging around with Davey and Braden early in the week. Me and Steph were. Throw that in too. It was just fucking the best week, wasn't it? It was amazing. So. Yeah, there we go. We're not hypocrites. We're just right, JP. That's all it is. Well, yeah, I think a lot of the people in the chat would agree. But moving on from there, from best live show into best feud storyline we have here. Story maybe being the key word there. So you know what? Without further ado, I'm going to go to Matty first on this one. See if he shocks us. Matty, what's your
Well,
what's your
Benno,
best Feud storyline of the year, mate?
in time-honored tradition of it being me, I've picked a feud and I've picked a storyline. So, right, because I'm differentiating the two. My feud of the year is Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar. Strictly for the matches. I love that trilogy match. He had the story he told throughout the 3 matches. Cody got the fluke win in the first one, didn't he? Brock obviously broke his arm on Raw and then used that to his advantage where he passed Cody out in the second match. And then Cody had to beg Brock for the 3rd match at SummerSlam, which I thought was a ballsy thing to do. Like where at the SummerSlam one, he gave him like 6 F5s, was it? 1 on the floor, 1 through the table. But the fans got behind Cody. Now, that was a couple of years ago, boys, as you know. They probably would have turned on Cody and started cheering Lesnar, but they got right behind Cody. And he come in, definitively beat Brock. And you even got Brock breaking character, if you believe Triple H, shaking Cody's hand and raising the hand. I thought top to bottom, great feud for the story in the matches. But my favourite storyline, I'm not going to shock anyone here, is the Bloodline Civil War. Especially, you know, that part of it. The Bloodline in general, of course, but that Civil War bit from the week before Night of Champions, where the seed was planted, there was it was seen at the time like a throwaway backstage segment where Roman's proper talking Jimmy down. It's so good. He's basically just bullying him, saying, "I whooped you when you were a kid. I'll whoop you now. What are you going to do about it?" And Jay has to come in and go, "Not now. Leave it." And then during the match, obviously, where it's Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns and Solo for the tag team championships, Jimmy comes in and does the unthinkable and he kicks Roman Reigns twice. And then we're just off to the races. Then we have some of the best angles, which I might go into in another award in a bit following it. And then obviously we build up to SummerSlam, which the Tribal Combat was a letdown overall as an actual match. It went too long, but just that month period, once again, I said before, I don't think I've ever been invested. Like every Saturday morning, like getting up, putting SmackDown on, dragging Steph into it. Like, you've got to see this, you've got to see this. I was obviously just so into it, like I was a kid again. It was just so fucking good. Plus, I'll mention the numbers when we break down the angle, Ben, in a bit. So don't worry about that. Got that in my back pocket as well.
Is that there too, is it? Yeah.
It is, of course.
I mean, people are going to expect me to argue with you, but I think it's got a very, very strong case. It's also got some negatives, you know. There's elements of the story that I think haven't been well told, specifically the Cody elements, and specifically I think this tail end of the year, where presumably the story's still got ongoing, but and it's happened more than once this year, but it's felt like it's running on fumes. But you never know. Bring Roman back and get them going again. I never thought they'd get Jey Uso to position years as.
Well, Ben, no, can I put in? Right now, you know? Sorry, mate. I think like we both got a. I remember the big conversation we had after the spotlight after SummerSlam, where it did go off for about 20 minutes between us, and I think we were both heated. But I think we both have got to eat a bit of crow on this. I think, like you've just said there, you've admitted about Jey Uso. No, you've got to about Jey Uso not being a good single star. He's one of the most over wrestlers in a company where you've got CM Punk now, you've got Cody, you've got Seth over, you've got Randy Orton come back.
I knew that, yeah, at the time they booked it.
No, but I'm just saying, it's where you can't say it. He hasn't worked that well as a good single star. That's undeniable. And I've got to eat crow in the bit where since then it has tailed off, man. It'll never reach it. I don't think it'll ever get back until they do the Solo and Roman stuff. I still believe that's the end game. That's the ultimate end game, where I think it'll heat right back up again. Like for me personally, but I agree with you that of course that's undeniable as well. It has dropped off. It won't reach them heights it reached with the Civil War actual stuff, with the tag team going into Tribal Combat. After it, as you say, even the Jimmy stuff now, I was trying to defend it at the time. What, is he delusional? Is it this? And I need a bit more explanation to that. I can't even look for the Easter eggs. And I'm the biggest fan there probably is of this, you know, and the people out there have seen, right, their own versions of it. And I'm like, is that really what's happening? I know we can all do that with wrestling, but I've got to agree with you. It has dropped off since the summer. So there you go. Good. Bit of honesty there.
Well, I don't have to agree with you, so thanks for that. Appreciate it.
But you do, because Jey Uso, Benno, you've got to eat that, mate. It's undeniable, mate.
No, I haven't. Because
he comes out.
I haven't, because the point was that he shouldn't be the one to beat Roman, and I still stand by that. But
You
they
said
have
you
surprised
said
me.
no one had ever cared about the Usos as single wrestlers. We've got the audio tape. We can go back and listen to it. You said no one will ever care about both Usos as
This
single
escalated.
wrestlers. You genuinely did. So you've got to own up. You've got to
If
own
I
it.
said
You
that,
big man and own up. You
he
did.
says in the title of the O.J. Simpson book. Oh no, that's if I did it. If I said that,
You did say it. Think I forget that?
I love. We've got the audio tape, like you've got it on physical. You sat there with the old Maxwell tape there, and you
Should not got
fucking.
my phone ready to press play, shouldn't I? You genuinely did say no one will ever care about the silly Usos as single wrestlers. It's all there. It's documented.
Maybe I said that. Maybe I was talking in context of whether Jey Uso should be the one to beat Roman Reigns.
He's a professional with his words, isn't he? Yeah.
He shouldn't. But I have been pleasantly surprised by Jey Uso becoming a not main event top guy, but a close enough top level guy. That secondary level, top of the babyface tree, kind of guy. So yeah, gotta give them credit for that. But I agree with everything else you said. Yeah, and the Cody Rhodes thing continues to be a thing. He's definitely.
We'll talk about that with WrestleMania. We'll save that one.
Yeah, he's done better this year than anybody would have imagined. I wouldn't have trusted WWE to keep him over to the degree they have. Is it the optimum use of Cody Rhodes? I'm not sure, but I guess we can have that conversation when it comes to next week's WrestleMania. I think we found a bit of common ground there. I'll take that. But yeah, I agree with you. And Jey Uso, it's a gimmick main event Jey Uso, but he's done very well to get to.
I'm not saying he's the main event, but you said no one would care. You said no one would care about them as singles, and they do. Even Jimmy, I know he's playing a delusional, but he's getting used as the main heel. Don't get me wrong. I said to you, and with on the
not a very effective one, is he?
No, they're getting beat like a drum. I know Solo's getting protected, but he's getting like the DQ matches. Jimmy Uso's getting beat like a drum. You can use that both ways. Like he remains over because of it, but even I'm like begging him to get a win. It's like every week he's getting RKO'd and pinned and just. But that might lean into the story, of course, coming up with Roman again. So whatever, but. Yeah, I knew it would come, Benno. I knew that would come.
With some tweaks, it's there. It's there, but there's room for disagreement too. How about you, Gareth? What have you got on your list?
Well, I haven't got that. What was it? I haven't seen enough of it for a start. I think I only watched that tribal combat match. Was that where was that where somebody wasn't allowed at ringside, and then his brother turned on him for the 5th time or something like that? Like in the past 2 years, I don't know. It was all very confusing. I didn't get it, but no, mine's much more simplistic. I haven't gone for 2. I've just gone for feud of the year, really, because. AEW being AEW this year, there's only been one storyline, I think, in the whole fucking company for the whole year. So it was a bit slim pickings if you're looking for proper stories going on. So for me, it was just back to the feud. It was back to Benno's match of the year, and it was back to the start of the year with Hangman Page and Jon Moxley, where obviously they'd had the angle, real life angle at the end of last year of 2022, where Hangman had obviously been there was the concussion in the match, and then that was then turned into this sort of feud that ran through the first quarter of the year, really, where they had just 3 banging matches in a row. They had the first 2. They had a match on Dynamite in January that was a cracker. They had the match in February also on Dynamite, I think, that was a cracker, and then it just led into the Texas Death at the pay-per-view at Revolution in March. So it was one of those where it just felt gritty and dirty and real and hated and heated, and 2 lads going in there and fighting properly, kind of thing, and really drew you into them. And I won't go over the ground that Benno went over, talking about it as his match of the year, but a lot of those things there, just the way that Hangman, was positioned in that feud from somebody who hadn't looked that good in quite a long time, and gave you great optimism in him as somebody who could be a top liner for AEW. It was just something that just sort of captivated you, really, for a 3-month period, and felt like, oh, fucking hell, we're starting the year here with a corker. This is going to be a good year. And then it's one of those. I'm giving it my feud of the year, But then the sting in the tail of that is that it didn't deliver, as Benno said previously. Like, what came out of it, at the back of it, you didn't get Hangman that kind of like went rip-roaring through the air on the back of it with the way that he'd been built and positioned from the work that Mox had put into this and things like that. So it's one of those that very much treating it as like a standalone and in isolation for a 3-month period. You are left kind of feeling a bit like what might have been on the back of it. But as a 3-month body of work between like two lads, fucking take some beating.
Yeah.
My choice is kind of reliant really on your choice, Gareth, because I actually went, and this again could easily be recency bias, but I've gone with Swerve Strickland, Hangman Page, which says a lot about the kind of comments we make about Hangman Page a lot. But I always think of what you always say, Benno, which is he needs to be the main character of this company. And that's why, because when you put him in a proper singles feud, he carries a level of authenticity that just kind of works. But the reason I like the Swerve Strickland one, and again, this is fully in the knowledge that there is this awful home invasion angle bit into it as well. But then I treat it almost like I treat Rock versus Austin at WrestleMania 17, and I just willfully forget about the Deborah stuff. And I just move past that, and I just think of these two titans want to have a match. And this is fundamentally based on what I kind of love about like wrestling, which is two guys who want to get to the top of the card, one of whom has been there but is in a bit of a funk, and the other one has never been given the chance. And they see just a reason to kind of like, it's the simplest of feuds, but it works with the kind of pro wrestling logic. And I fucking loved it. Like when it clicked in ring, and it just brought out, and it just makes me think that in many ways for Wrestler of the Year, we should be talking about Hangman Adam Page being in there. But it kind of tells you about like the kind of like willful ignorance they do at points when, you know, let's face it, they stick him in a fucking trios match and shit like this, and like, you know, all the really like kind of bad stuff, because he's so much better than that. But it felt like it was the coming out party for sort of Swerve Strickland properly as like a main event character. You went, yeah, if you know, you don't want to wish people injured, but when I heard the news about MJF being injured, I thought, oh yeah, good reason here just to chuck it and give it to one of these two lads, and then just put that feud in there with the world title, and that's happily sorted for that. I like it to the point, rather like Moxley as well, which is another like cracking argument for it. These are the kind of career rivals that Hangman should have. It's people who he kind of wrestles with and respects, but at the same time, it's like it's proper like kind of almost blood feud stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one, this, because like it's like the other awards. Like that's why, you know, we talk about this being a week here, and then we all list off 10 fucking all-timer matches that could all be, you know, close to 5 stars. And you go, hang on, maybe the year wasn't that bad. But it's when you get into the weeds, it's when you try and think of, okay, who's the female wrestler of the year? Who's the tag team of the year? You know, there's been great pay-per-views. That's the other argument in this year's positive. But the other argument in this year's negative is, yeah, with AEW's booking being all over the show, I can't go to AEW for my story of the year. Like, I think Gareth I didn't really consider it fully, because although it was my match of the year, like Gareth alluded to, I think the Hangman Page and Moxley thing kind of tailed off because, you know, they moved it into it became Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite, and then it kind of got diluted by all of that. So while I can vote for the match as a standalone, I think when you vote for the feud, I think the consequences of it do matter, maybe even more so than they already matter with the match. So I couldn't really justify myself to go with that, even though that might have been the default pick. I can't go Hangman Swerve because I feel too strongly about the home invasion angle. I hated it that much that it really took me out of the entire thing. So you lose that for me too. And yeah, Matty, you're gonna be smiling, mate, but I'm almost hesitant to say it.
Go on.
But I'm going to be specific here. It is not the Bloodline, but it is Sami Zayn versus the Bloodline. And I think
you're a good lad.
I don't think people are really thinking about this, because it came up last year when they did this, because we were already going pretty much, you know, with it all, you know, with Sami and the Bloodline segments and all of that. But when did the peak stuff happen? January to WrestleMania.
Royal Rumble. That angle of the child the week before on Raw, wasn't it?
Yeah. Montreal in February, and then into Mania Night 1, which is part of the story. But that January to February stuff was just so good. I think every argument you can make, JP's one's a good argument, but there's holes there. Garrett's one's a good argument, but as we've both said, there's holes there. There's holes here too, but I think the peaks are so strong with that as a story, with Sami Zayn and the Bloodline, and even with the end of it, like I wasn't as strong as a lot of people with, Sami should be the one to beat Roman. It felt like it maybe in the moment, but that's maybe the strength of the story and the emotional connection we all had to the story that made us be like, Sami should be the guy. Sami should be the guy to beat him. There are ways they could have done it. Sure, he could have got one belt, Cody gets the other, or done something like that, and we talked about it at the time. But as far as like that is, I think the rest of the year is littered with negatives, I think, for the Bloodline, not business-wise, but I think all the things even yourself have said, Matty, there about what's kind of happened the second half of the year with the Bloodline story. But the peak of it and its strongest case is that short period there from like January to March. And I can't think of any other story that's been that strong for like a 2-month period. Everything else has been like, I could say Ospreay and Omega and be a contrarian because they had 2 great matches, but did they have a feud? Not really. You know, there's a couple of others that are in there, like I say, Hangman and Swerve did have great matches, but the bits between it aren't really there. So probably makes you happy, Matty, to go there. But I do want to give Sami Zayn the credit more than
I was going to say, I'm happy you picked Roman, but I knew you'd say it was all because of Sami.
But it's got flaws too. We all do. Yeah. There's been no perfect storytelling this year. I mean, I suppose there never is. Wrestling's a flawed art form, isn't it, for that type of stuff? But it doesn't feel like last year we were all like straight away, well, FTR Briscoes because of the matches, I think, was in there, or Punk MJF, unbelievably was something we were talking about last year. There isn't that immediate argument, I don't think, this year, which is why we're all in different places, I think, with it.
Yeah, I struggled again. It was another one where you're literally going deep into your memory banks and thinking, what did I enjoy, kind of, and trying to pull it together. But there's a great big fucking hole in the middle of the year where there's a lot that I didn't enjoy. So you really have to either go very recent like JP or very far back like me.
And it also says as well, like when it came to this, and when it came to this, I was like thinking really mainly from sort of 2 promotions, 3. I mean, there's been stuff in kind of Impact, like there's elements I enjoy, but not enough because I'm not always watching like the TV and stuff like that. But it was interesting. I thought my brain never went to New Japan. There was never a feud or a storyline throughout the entirety of
the next show
company. Yeah, exactly.
They've offered you not, no, have they? Not really.
Benno, I thought, was you never considering that never-ending Seth Rollins v Finn Balor in like a 3.5 feud? No, was you not considering that one?
That's been going on for 15 years, mate.
Was there a Matt Hardy contract feud?
Was that
it feels like that might have been in.
You with them. Yeah,
that'd have been there.
I joke about New Japan, but I think I saw SP3 say this the other day. Like he would have gone for when they were teasing the Okada versus the young lad stuff, JP, and then inexplicably they didn't put him in the G1 block with all the young lads. Like there was something there. They didn't even do that. That was never paid off. Something. With Kaito Kiyomiya, exactly. Me and Ramen thinking the same way. Like that, there could have been something if that was paid off properly and wasn't just like Okada just legitimately being a bully. There might be something in that, CM Punk v Tony Khan, Andy says in the chat. A couple of real life ones.
Yeah, there is the real life ones. Yeah, CM Punk versus the world.
We'll probably go for these next couple quite quickly. Best promo / angle. Is there a specific? I suppose we've Max lyrical about feuds. The moments within those feuds. The moments within those angles. I'll throw mine out quickly. My one first goes to what JP said before. I don't know if anyone else is going to have it, but it's going to be not the home invasion with Strickland, but the angle that influenced it. Don't know if you're along the same lines, Gareth. Again, it's another one though, because there's got to be buts and caveats to it, because Swerve Strickland and AR Fox breaking into the Wayne family gym or whatever it was and taking out Nick Wayne and Darby Allin with all that violence was so fucking effective and amazing in isolation. Why didn't I talk about it when I got to my feud of the year? Well, it's the follow-up to it. But I think as an angle and as an individual moment, that would go for my angle of the year. If you're in the same boat, Gareth.
Exactly the same. And I've talked on, I think last show I was on about the U-turn that I've done on Swerve this year. And this was the moment where I went, wow, God. That was like the trigger point for me to just change my opinion on him because that was just so fucking well done. I was like all over this, like Nick Wayne lying there and with piss and blood all over the place, with like Swerve fucking getting Darby on the phone in front of his face, and Prince Nana just laughing away in the background like dead, like evil and stuff. So fucking brilliantly executed the whole scene, and just, you know, it just sort of like kicked on into the way that Swerve character just got a bit more brutal over the course of the year, and got a bit more nasty and a bit more heelish and stuff. Just literally as soon as I saw that on the list, first thing that sprung to mind, and I knew it was going to be on my year-end thing the second I watched it.
Yeah. 3 for 3, JP, before we go to Matty. Have you got that in there, or is it something else?
I went with that one because I thought that was absolutely fucking cracking. But I do want to mention just the Nick Wayne turn on his to join up with Christian. It made me jump up out of my seat, just punch in the air, going fucking yes, because obviously it's just been something that I've just been wanting to see. So I kind of just like loved that moment as much as anything else. But yeah, now I'm going to go on. Nick Wayne's all over this, bloody hell! Like, how do we get to that stage? But it was just fucking brilliant stuff.
Matty?
That was a great angle. That really was a good angle. But I can't. Once again, I feel like I'm boring the listeners here, boring myself. But it's got to be the trial of Roman Reigns, because this encapsulates that whole Civil War.
Which
July.
One?
It's the one with. Don't start me. Don't even start. It encapsulates the whole of the London experience. We had Jey Uso pinning Roman Reigns, and then we went to the SmackDown straight after, Benno, on July the 7th from a sold-out Madison Square Garden. So the Garden obviously holds that as well. You had the trial of Roman Reigns taking on the first. They were only meant to go like 20 minutes, but they ended up taking over the first 40 minutes of the show. And like wrestlers weren't happy, like Sheamus and that were fuming, weren't they? But it's like you're delivering this. And once again, we're still in the peak of this where it was just unbelievable. Like Roman's coming out still like blanking he's been pinned, really, thinking he's still like, you know, the fucking leader. And then the Usos play all the evidence of him treating bad over the years and that. And then Roman just turns and goes, you know, I don't need this, you know, is that who I've turned into? You know, I don't need this. I've got enough money. If you want all this, then take it. Takes the belt off. The fans are gasping. He takes the necklace off, gives it to Jey. The fans can't. Holy shit chance for taking a necklace off. This is how over this was in the Garden, Benno. This is like just unbelievable. So Roman's on his knees, Gareth. I know you're not a fan, but he's crying that one single tear down on his knees, and he's like, "I'm sorry," acknowledging Jey, but then fuck it, low blow, Gareth, big low blow. Roman and Solo just beat the shit out of the Usos. It's probably as savage as you can get for WWE these days, without the blood, without like the other weapons they can use. Like they don't use handcuffs really or stuff like that anymore. So like they tied Jey up in the ropes and they just beat the shit out of Jimmy, end up getting took out in an ambulance, and the Garden's giving Roman loads. And I just love this so much, just for everything they have mentioned, and the fact that it's probably the only wrestling segment, Gareth, in the last, maybe 5, 10, maybe 5 years, 7 years, that drew over 3 million viewers, mate, as Benno likes numbers. So I've got to throw that one in there as well, haven't I? So that makes you think angle of the year, doesn't it? Because they drew the most. So
I didn't remember which one you were talking about, mate, until that came up. And
there's only been one tribal, the tribal chief, so that's the only one, mate.
Oh, was that? Okay, fair enough. Feel like it's on SmackDown every week.
The naivety.
Rama's got you back in the chat anyway. He's been loving the bloodline this year.
40 minutes though.
And if it was only meant to go 25, it's a proper story, proper pro wrestling. This is proper great stuff, mate. Honestly,
did they do some WWE maths to get this over 3 million? Were they like adding up how many people were watching in every 5 minutes or something like that?
It was good for views, mate. But I could have had another one, the one where Jey thinks he's gonna turn on Jimmy, and he says, "You're out, I'm out too," and then just super kicks Roman. That's a great one. There's so many, and there's also, you know,
every one of these angles has got a different Uso doing something completely inconsistent with the character from the other angle you just mentioned 10 seconds before.
But even Platt, no, it's not that hard to follow, but you twisted it around. I've agreed with it in the last few months, but that first 6 months, there's nothing wrong with it at all. As Platt said as well, pop-wise, that chair shot by Sami Zayn to Roman, what a pop that is, you know. Ending a pay-per-view with like a 20-minute angle, whatever it was. Incredible stuff as well.
That's one word for it. On that note, do I need to ask moments of the year? It kind of ties into to promo and angle. Go on, Matty, while you're talking. Go on.
Moments of the year. You know, well, you know what? I had it down, but I've swapped what I originally had for news story of the year. So if you want to go to one of you guys first, because I've made an audible there. Yeah. Well, I think.
Oh well, my moment of the year. I'll go back to Wembley weekend. And my moment of the year was the four of us stood behind that door in Trinity Bar, just like, and just hearing that first music going for Matty, and just been like, here we go, lads, kind of thing. And we just had that little moment kind of just before the show, and I was just like, fucking hell, this is boss, this like kind of, and then just that little, because you've obviously been that manic and all that all day and stuff, and you just had that little moment, just the four of us before we went out on stage, and that was fucking brilliant. It made the whole thing worthwhile, and then obviously everything that went after it, kind of thing. It was just a fucking blurbing up on that stage with everybody who fucking amazing, just looking out and seeing that many people had bought tickets to come and watch like the live show and things like that. It was just like I feel like when I listened back to it, I felt like I hardly said a word, because my mind was just blown for the whole time that we were just like up there. It was mental, but like what a moment that I never thought you'd ever have, kind of thing. Brilliant.
I've got to agree then with that. Fuck the wrestling. Let's go.
You know what? Let's go.
That is just like, as you say, Gareth, I was having an out-of-body experience sitting there. Like, I honestly was shocked. That first 15 minutes, I don't think I've been as nervous in my life. I couldn't look up because of all the faces, you know, each time, and not make eye contact. Then you say, right, I'll make eye contact. And as we've said, like, Benno and JP got it. Like, honestly, I'm not just saying it here. Like, were incredible on the day. Like, Benno holding it all together, JP delivering the fucking lines that only you can deliver, JP, to the audience. Honestly, you're so good, and you Gareth, you carried me through it. I'll be honest, and just amazing.
I can't you nowhere, mate. I drove you, but I didn't carry it. I didn't carry anyone on. I didn't carry anyone on that show. I got carried through that show myself.
But I'm sure, like we'll say on the Ask Grapple as well, like we're big, obviously, Davey and Braden up, but it's everyone coming as well, like everyone listening here. Like we'll save that for that, but can't not thank you enough for coming. It was just what a fucking experience, as you say, boys.
I think it's sunk in still for me. Like, I remember, like, because it was such a manic day, and we made the mistake of going out the night before and having one too many. Like, I remember seeing Connor outside the show, and I was like, oh, fucking hell, I feel hungover. I'm sure he said something like, yeah, you're lucky. I was like, yeah, I think I do. Nice one, thanks for that. But like, honestly, like, felt horrible until we got on that stage, and even that's the thing, when you're in it, it was hard to process, like, the amount of bodies that were in that room and the amount of eyeballs that were kind of on us, and hopefully got to speak to enough people after the show as well. But I know there were people there never got a chance to. But yeah, I just remember being sat in, because that was the thing, it was out of there and then straight in the cab to All In. So I was being Stefan in the cab, and it was only then I was kind of starting to almost half process it, but then All In happened. So I don't think I've ever had that moment to kind of just go, oh, yeah, that was great, wasn't it? Because it really was. So yeah, it's definitely up to that whole weekend, as we said earlier. Incredible.
Absolutely incredible weekend. And I just kind of went from like where we came when we first started doing this, all those, what feels like, and the amount of shows that we've done since then on like a kind of like on a weekly basis, like most weeks, kind of like twice a week, which you would hear all of those if you go to patreon.com/grapple. But that's like a testament to it as well. And it was just like everything about it, like going out there, but meeting people beforehand. And just being able to like kind of, you know, just take it all in of like, fucking hell, this is like a very real event. And it was just such a like brilliant show, brilliant success, like amazing. Definitely like the highlight of the year.
I need to mention two other things from that, like obviously David and Braden done a great job. But it was the games after that where I'm standing on the side, and obviously they're doing the game, and I'm dying to shout everything out and get involved in it. And Davey's looking at me like, Matty, come on, but like laughing, saying like, I'm just eager to get involved and get there. Love that. But I've got to give, it's on me stories, Chris Elliott in the chat here. Everyone we met obviously unbelievable. Love everybody. But Chris deserves
Yep.
a special shout out because he got the fucking coach down the night before. He had fucking hardly any sleep. I turned around in Grow, Benno, when we're still there at 2 a.m. Who's there with his crutch in the air dancing to Oxide in the Chino with myself? It's Chris Elliott.
That's the
Honestly,
moment of the year.
It's one of my moments of the year. Incredible stuff, Chris. Trooper, mate. Honestly, legend. Legend.
My moment of the year was at Rev Pro when somebody came up to Joe and said, "Are you Rev Joe?" And he went,
Oh,
I still feel bad about that. Sorry, James. But it was great. But yeah, that weekend was full of moments. Also, CM Punk at Survivor Series. That would have been my wrestling shout. But I think we'll take our one. We'll take it for the
All
for the
day
team.
long.
To that note, bit of a switch here, but yeah, considering the previous categories, best feud, best match, best live show, best wrestler, I think that all feeds into the next one, which is another one of the big ones, best promotion. Matty's been looking forward to this.
I mean, can I just go first? It's WWE. I don't need to say any more than I've said all fucking show. So WWE, as I say, just to keep it short, the first 8 months, incredible stuff. Bit of a dip since the last 4 months, but they're trying to get new people over for next year. They're setting new, they've got like placeholder feuds going on at the minute till you get to the Royal Rumble. So you can kind of see why they're doing that as well, saving all the big stuff for Rumble into Mania. So, and as I say, they're trying to get new people over on the TV. So, that it is what it is. But that first 8 months, TV, pay-per-views especially, genuinely some of the best stuff they've done in I don't know how long. So that's my pick.
Fuck's sake.
For everybody, I'm loving this. I
Well,
reckon one of you is going to agree. I don't know who's going to agree.
I'll talk you through my thought process because I'm not settled yet. Like, I don't want to say any of the names that are obvious because I don't want to say AEW, to be honest. Like, I think you can make the argument, and I wonder whether JP or Gareth might, just because of the strength of the pay-per-views. Like, as Tony Khan again will say himself over and over again, as a promotion, had a pay-per-view run that good before. When you look through their summer, it's hard to beat it. They also did have that absolute shit show, which was the MJF led Full Gear this year. But outside of that, like wins for pay-per-views all around. But the TV, in its entire existence, I've never been as invested in AEW. But then this is what I mean. I'm giving you my working out loud. The matches on the TV at times, as we always say, JP, best wrestlers in the world, throw them out there with any fucking combination, and you're gonna strike gold every now and again. And he's still got that in him. He's still, I'd always argue Tony Khan's a much better matchmaker than he is Booker or storyteller or whatever word you want to use that isn't sports entertainment.
That's easy, isn't it? We can all do that.
It hasn't happened in history. So I think he does deserve some credit, and he deserves some credit for work because this is the thing. This best promotion award is also really best booker, because if we do a best booker award, we're all going to say whatever we said for promotion. So it's kind of like it's Triple H and WWE versus Tony Khan and AEW, unless you want to go rogue and JP wants to say All Japan, which I've seen a few people say, or MLW the chatter in there in unison throwing out there, but. It's hard because as far as having the shit together, I don't want to say it, but I don't think Matty's far wrong. I don't think the hits have been as high when it comes to the pay-per-views, but they have had, at least in the first half of the year, a sneaky good pay-per-view year. I wanted to mention it when we talked show of the year, like it wasn't maybe not a bell to bell, but like that Puerto Rico backlash, like that's a great memory for me from this year. How fucking fun was that show? The 2 Mania nights were very good. The Rumble with the Sami Zayn, stuff was fucking great. And speaking of Sami Zayn, the Montreal show was fucking great as well. Like that first half of the year, Jesus Christ, you want to talk big moments, decent enough matches for WWE, but just overall well told, well executed stuff. They do deserve some credit, and they've got their ducks in a row. And as me and JP keep saying, it's competent, if nothing else. Doesn't light my world on fire the week-to-week Raw, SmackDown, apart from when Phil's knocking around. But I can't say it's badly booked. It's probably the best book promotion this year.
Just say it. Say it outright. Get on the spreadsheet, Benno. Just say it. Come on.
Talk me out of it, guys. Please help. I need it. I can't say it. I don't want to say it.
I can't talk you out of it, Benno. Like I've just got a blank here on my sheet of paper with my promotion of the year here, because I'm like, can I I say it like I've my wrestling watching has been more narrow this year. I can't in good faith say AEW is the promotion of the year, despite those like good matches, despite those good pay-per-views, because they nearly stopped me watching wrestling for in the mid part of the year. I was so down on it, how shit the TV was week to week, how bad the booking was and things like that. It just like, I didn't want to watch it every week. So how can that be promotion of the year? Like, and then I go like, okay, well, if I'm picking a promotion of the year to be a best promotion of the year, there's got to be those business metrics in there, haven't they? And they've just been fucking tanking TV viewers as well and things like that. So I'm not the only one who was feeling like that either. Whereas even though it hasn't been a good enough promotion of the year to make me watch it, you've just got to look at the business metrics, and WWE has been the promotion of the year based on money, TV ratings, TV growth, and things like that. People have clearly been investing, like in the stories and things. People have been wanting to watch the product, so it has to be better because that's it going up when there's red arrows going down for AEW, and like.
They've got the business argument, they do.
A sad fact. But it's still not even that good that you can throw CM Punk out there and make me want to watch, because I don't even want to watch that. So like, there you go. So it's not that good. So it's not promotion of the year by my brain, just by a spreadsheet.
So we keep saying JP spreadsheet buffer. It's a great game of TW. He's fucking completed it, mate. Paul Levesque, what a player.
He has. I mean, and again, come back to a comment earlier on in the chat, which is this is the year the Empire struck back, and my God, they did. And they had their ducks. They went on a run that they haven't been on in the last 20 years in terms of delivering on big shows. I'm going to say things that are going to sound inherently contradictory, because I think, like you mentioned, AEW have these sporadic big shows this year in the main, although they are starting to do them now monthly, which is probably weirdly going to help them given the amount of good wrestling they have. But what AEW would, in between those, you'd be filled with TV that just left me disappointed and thinking you could be doing so much better. And that's why, in all good conscience, I couldn't go with them, because they're not just a pay-per-view company. They're a, like, which in many ways kind of WWE to me is. And so I don't watch the TV, but they do these shows every month. And because we do a podcast, we tend to review them. And it was just like every month going, that was a good show. That was perfectly fine. It was generally enjoyable. The Rumble was, Elimination Chamber, WrestleMania nights 1 and 2, leading into Backlash, which I just fucking loved, like the feeling for that as much as anything else. Even the Saudi shows were all like were kind of like they were in the main. They were different, but they were a lot better than what they had been. Obviously there as well. Money in the Bank, just to the atmosphere, knowing that you guys are, knowing that Matty was there for that as well, and seeing the culmination of all of that, it was hard to argue away from it. And anytime you watched, because they're such a slick product, every time you watch those video packages, it's like, well, I'm quite glad I don't watch the TV, because they kind of nicely surmised it to me. And it was just like, yeah, this is generally in the main pretty good wrestling, and it wasn't as haphazard as AEW, which is all over the place. And in terms of all the other promotions, there wasn't like, I went for Stardom last year, and Stardom had a bit of a disaster in 2023. Like, there's not really a business argument. It's kind of stalled, if not gone down. Bit of an injury crisis as well. Feeling very much like what Brighton could end up being this year in the Premier League, but I digress. All Japan have had a good year, but it's very incremental. Like, I think TNA have continued in a good path, but it's at steady progress rather than spectacular. So you kind of look at it and all the other contenders, and it's just like, well, but this is the year that WWE kind of got good at points. And I hate myself for saying that, because I want to hate them. And I don't know how clear I want to be, but like, and again, it's me, and it's the problem with some of these arguments. Sometimes it'll be a wrestling point of view. And then in this case, it's just like, but it's just generally well run and competent. And you can drop into these big shows, know what the storylines are. They appear to be over with the crowd, and in the main, they delivered good stuff. Now, it did taper off, I think, from SummerSlam onwards. Yeah, it's tapered off. But like, that was a hell of a run they were on. Whereas AEW, I felt, left me frustrated for a lot of weeks rather than anything else. MLW, I know for people in the chat, fuck knows with them. God knows where they are.
So it's
I think-
WWE, but just insert a video of Homer Simpson saying default.
I just want Benno to say it out loud. I need that in my life.
Because Tony
Come on,
Khan's
Benno.
gone on a Barney style bender, hasn't he? On non-alcoholic
basically
beer, and
said
this is
it.
what's happened.
But Benno
Yeah.
hasn't said it yet. You two have agreed and said it. Come on, Benno. The floor.
Fine. I agree with the majority in the chat. It's RevPro, as Don and Liam have said. I agree. You know, great year, developed
Yes.
Michael O'Q, you know, Leon Slater, Luke Jacobs has had a great year. You know, consistently and undoubtedly the best promotion in the UK. Am I words? Not Don's.
I do.
Over to the skate patch that.
In all seriousness, in all seriousness, Rev Pro as well. Like they have, they've had a very good year, and they've hit into a good groove with the 229 shows and the Copper Box as well. I mean, and that can't be like in a year where not a lot of companies have they've either not really grown or they've kind of regressed. Rev Pro didn't. It felt like they kind of expanded and very much solidified. Okay, we are Europe's #1 promotion at this point in time. And I don't even think there's no credible argument that goes against it. How much that means in 2023? I mean, it's kind of slim pickings from the challengers, isn't it?
Boys,
I kind of feel Matty looking at me.
No, yeah, I am. Benno, I'm staring right through you. I like off X-Men with the laser eyes coming out to me.
We just leave a blank in my section.
It's going to be like Ben Kingsley and Sexy Beast, isn't it? That's what we're waiting on.
Just say it, Benno. Just say it, please.
From a
I beg
TV
you.
product point of view, I think it's a draw, AW and WWE, because I think AW has had higher highs and lower lows. WWE's just been consistent and not necessarily compelling, but has kind of existed through the year. So I can't give it either way there. From a match point of view, which does matter, we did used to be the Grapple Apps podcast, Matthew. It's AW all day long. Pay-per-views, I think that's kind of split. If it was straight up Booker of the Year, it's Triple H over Tony Khan.
Business, or that's a non-starter, isn't it?
No, I was going to say, if you're going to have any decider, it's business, isn't it? And like Gareth said, you can't argue WWE have had better business than AEW. So definitely, I'll go with that promotion. I agree.
Okay, I'll take it now. But I'm just going to say, could you imagine, I was going to say 3 years ago, but even 2 years ago, did you ever think we'd all agree that WWE is with the promotion of any year? I can imagine, boys. I'm sorry. I can only apologise.
Tony sorted out in 2020. I hope he gets a shock, though. I hope like more award shows go like this. And I hope he uses the Observer Awards. He loves to be in that Book of the Year. He's not going to get it this year. That readership are going to vote for Triple H or Shawn Michaels, who suppose could get a nod as well from some. Not me, but
he deserves a shout not for Booker of the Year, but no, he's turned NXT round though. He has turned it. Yeah,
what, by putting the Undertaker on there one week and putting Becky Lynch on there another week.
It beat it the week before. It beat it the week before.
Who was on it that week?
Only Dirty Dom and Becky Lynch, wasn't it? It wasn't like
only Becky Lynch. Okay,
going against the big Daniel Bryan and John Moxley, these superstars. You know what I mean? Come on, mate.
Here we go.
Don't get let's move on. We've all agreed. Let's move on.
Yeah, and this says here, slightly biased. We all watch AEW Weekly Power, but no one's watching. That's the promotion of the year that none of us want to watch. There's something to
it's
that.
Weird. It's gone weird, hasn't it? The whole
Tony can have that. He can have that. At least we're watching him, you know. Even if we're ripping it apart half the time, it's certainly more interesting to discuss for me. But can't argue with numbers, I suppose. Moving on from there, a few of the extra ones before we get to the big ones, Matty. The 4 pillars and the big six. They're coming. Best commentator. Anyone got a shout for that?
Can I go first again? Sorry for jumping in. I'm going AEW. I think Excalibur, he'll always be the best commentator for me. Ever since I first heard in PWG and ever since he went to AEW, been a big fan. And don't get me wrong, I don't not watch AEW. I watch the segments, I watch all the promos, I might watch all the matches. And he's got to piece some shit together, JP. He's got to use all the nous he's got and all the experience he's got of calling this. And he makes it he tries his hardest to explain what's going on as well in there. But calling matches, there's no one better for me. He knows all the moves, the modern moves. He's not stuck in the past. He's just an unbelievable wrestling commentator, and I've always been a fan of him. So I'll always go Excalibur as long as he's on here.
There we go. Anyone else back up Excalibur? I don't know if I'd go for him out of the AW lot, to be honest. This is one that I've left open-ended on my list. I've got a few that are kind of, they could all be honorary mentions, and I feel like I've got to pick one. Like Ian Riccaboni, if he was on more stuff, I think maybe you'd be in line with that, JP. I prefer him to Excalibur, to be honest. Excalibur's like almost like white noise. I don't even really notice him anymore. Maybe that says what a professional job.
Embedded in he though. That's what I'm saying. He's embedded in the product.
But I will, I said that when I was drawing me list to WWE versus AW, I was going to say commentary. I think the AW commentary overall is better than WWE. Jim Ross has been out the booth for long enough now that I've kind of forgotten about him. Jericho does commentate, but not that much anymore on Rampage. And then what have you got left? You've got some great groups like Excalibur, is great Tony Schiavone, as like the kindly old uncle, has still been a lot of fun this year as a commentator. Taz is probably the one out of that list, and I think Plastic agrees there in the chat that I maybe just about give the nod because he gives me that level of entertainment value. Maybe him and Excalibur as a duo is probably the strong argument for me, but I almost want to cheat and say the AEW commentary as a whole, there isn't really necessarily anyone that's head and shoulders above. It's just good, isn't it? It's good to have good wrestling commentary. That's something I'll give them.
Yeah. See, I was like you. I mean, last year I went with Tom Hannifan, and it's not as if he's done anything wrong. It's just that you kind of know what you're getting with him. I think it was more last year felt more like the surprise that actually you could just slot him really into any wrestling company, and without being overly scripted, he would generally be good. I kind of want to say Taz, but also, and I know this may be a controversial opinion, there's bits where Nigel McGuinness is really fucking good. Like there is the nugget of something good there. But then when he starts banging on with trying to set up a match with Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, I'm just like, oh, for fuck's sakes, here we go again. Or when he does some bad comedy. But there is some stuff I really like about him. And I kind of don't want to go that to be unnoticed. If you did him as just a straight up serious commentator, kind of like what he would do in Ring of Honor when he was nominally the commissioner, but he just seemed to be doing commentary duty for like main events. I always kind of really liked him. And then there's that WWE-ization that happens to people when they go there, and there's tendencies that he still has from that about being a character as opposed to being a commentator that do still kind of rank with me. So by default, Taz, who can be silly but somehow gets away with it, and occasionally with Taz when I hear him talk, I go, I used to think this bloke was a fucking killer back in the mid-90s, and I don't know how we've got to this point where his inexplicably good-looking son is like a champion there as well. It just makes no sense to me, and it's kind of weirdly wacky. And I think for those reasons, I'll always love Taz, and he'll end up becoming one of the great commentators in wrestling history. We'll have to explain like why did he never get a proper name like any other human being, but instead we just call him Taz. But then we'll ask that about Excalibur. Why did he never take off the mask? But there we go.
Yeah, I found it difficult as well. Like I went Tom Hannifan last year as well, and looking across the piece this year, there wasn't anyone like new or anything like that particularly stood out. Like controversially, I probably agree with JP a little bit. I think Nigel has improved a lot. I think since he was first on AEW, I think he's getting better and better week by week. I don't hate the Daniel Bryan stuff as much. Like sometimes he does get like a laugh out of me with a few of them like one-liners, but not to put him at the top of the tree by any means. I mean, I've just gone like by default Taz. I just enjoy listening to him, kind of like. I just think that like he can be serious when he needs to be serious. I like it when I enjoy him when he's just having a bit of a piss about with the lads, kind of thing. Like maybe when it's like on Fight and it's sort of like they've gone to commercials and stuff like that and they're just having a laugh and things. Like I just think, I just want to be there with the lads having a pint and just having a crack with them, kind of thing. Like I love that love that side of it as well. But I thought he played it well when there was like the stuff going on with Hook and he wasn't intervening and things like that, and he was playing it like very serious that his son was going to like sort the situation out and things. Like I like that as well. So it's Taz, but not by like not like wow, like he's been an extreme commentator kind of thing. It's just been I just enjoy listening to him like week in, week out, and he's never terrible to me.
Liam's beat me to it. I was going to say Big Peterson nature in it, JP.
Should be Pete. Why can't it just be Pete?
Pete and Pete. I'm with you. I think Nigel, he's not as bad as he was, but I still don't really enjoy him. Some of his little in jokes are funny. I don't really enjoy the Danielson stuff, mainly because I don't really want to see the match, contrary to my my ROH lover gimmick. But that booth has gotten better. With Kevin Kelly coincidentally pushed to the side, he's absolutely the. I watched Collision this week, and it's like the only time he's got something to say was when if someone's been in New Japan, he'll just reel off a load of facts that Chris Charlton told him 2 years ago. It's like, mate, well, there's a lot of AEW history behind this match too. You know, like you should probably know some of that. He fucking sucks, but he'll come up in the second half of this of all of this. But yeah, going on from there, another favorite ring entrance music. I found this one tough. There hasn't really been much new this year, has there? Like most of my candidates, stuff that I already kind of loved last year and we talked through. Don't know if anybody got anything they want to shout out first.
Oh, I have. There's one. It was almost like best moment in many ways, and it's Bad Bunny's entrance music in Puerto Rico at Backlash. I know that I want to do Swerve the Realist, and I love that, and I love the Nana dance and stuff like that. But it was the way that crowd, when he came out at Backlash, and the crowd just fucking lost it and singing along with him as well. And I watched it, and I was just like, wow, like this is fucking great. They are
that match, JP.
Yeah.
We've got to give preps. Did anyone think that'd be as good as it was? No. I know the atmosphere helped
that was
but mate, that type of Damian Priest has been pushed, isn't it? Because how good he done at carrying Bad Bunny. What a match! And
that card was a show lifted by the crowd, and this entrance for that, they were completely along with it. Shambaya is the song.
Goosebumps, JP, it is.
And it is
unbelievable.
It was absolutely incredible, and because there was no walkway, because there was no big LED screens and everything else, which I don't agree with the argument that you need to have loads of that stuff. It felt so tightly compact. So there were people around him as he was coming out, and the way they shot it, and the crowd just losing their shit. It was fucking incredible. So yeah, that's the one for me. I don't know what you, lads, have you got anything different to that?
Chris Elliott has nailed mine there. How can it not be Sting coming out to Seek and Destroy in Wembley Stadium? Like when you're there in the building, like when the start, like, I'll go. People have got it like recorded on YouTube and stuff where they've like videoed it. I like didn't video, but I'll just go on that all the time and just wait for it just to fucking like kick in, and then the crowd realizes that it's Seek and Destroy, and it's just what a fucking moment! Just to be in Wembley, just hearing Metallica playing for Sting, like fucking get in. What a fucking moment!
That was
one of those. It was like top three moment for me on that like whole Wembley card was just that happening. Couldn't believe it. Again, it was
got that on my phone, Gareth. I'll send you it, mate. Got that entrance.
You need to send it because I just watch it on YouTube all the time. Like from different angles, people have filmed it from like different points around the stadium. Like
fucking incredible.
Yeah. Well, mine. I'm going against the head of the table here, JP, for the first time in the arm. How long? But it's similar to Gareth. It's the experience. I'm going for the Usos theme song. And my main man, Ben Corrigan, the OG there at Brit Res. Like, we were talking at Newcastle there, and he feels the same moment of the year. Because when they come out and the fans are singing it, and Jay keeps the bounce now. But honestly, after the match, boys, they had about a 5. They weren't meant to stay out that long afterwards. You can just tell. But it was like a big carnival party atmosphere. And they were just getting the whole of the stand shape. He had a far stand. We could just have the perfect view for it. And we were like at a concert. It was like a nightclub there. We just going for it. And they were having the time of their lives, these shows. And honestly, it's one of the best experiences I've ever had. And I've been to a million nights out, JP. But that honestly put me back there now. And I just want to experience it again. It was incredible, honestly.
Second for me on the list was you coming out to Roman's music on your website.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
As I said in my speech, Gareth, that genuinely wasn't my idea. That was Steph's idea, genuinely. And I thought, why not? She's a keeper. Just for
one's in the air. What a moment. I think I'll go like again. Like there's ones I've loved. Like I was surprised to look at last year's one. Apparently, I went FTR's theme. That was new last year. I still didn't like it as a song, but yeah, it just shocks me really that I went with that. There's other ones that I was like, oh, I love Darby Allin's song, but like, can I really pick it for the 2023 song of the year? And then I realized I know what it is. Swerve Strickland's theme. You know, a wrestler rapping his own song is always a win for me ever since the days of Road Dogg and K Quick. So, you know, I'm into that. Also PG-13.
Explains why you're a Cena guy, Benno.
Yeah, news go back too far, that far back. Yeah, I loved the original battle rap Cena. Unfortunately, but yeah, it's fucking what a fucking cool song it is, you know. And we kind of go back and forth on the Nana stuff with him, but that's gotten over this year, hasn't it? Massively, you know, whether it's to the, I think overall it's to the positive of the act rather than the detriment, but there was definitely a danger of that, I think, maybe with it, but that's a big part of it. And it's just fucking cool, isn't it? Like, it sums the man up. It's not the last time I'm going to mention his name today. Like, just Swerve coming out to that song, it's just like, yeah, he's the coolest man in the ring, coolest man in the world on the way out there, absolutely every time. So yeah, I think as far as new ones go, I don't think there's any other contenders for me. It's got to be that. That's my 2023 one, I think. Does that go up in the car?
Four different tunes, lads. 4 different tunes.
Mm-hmm. Did well there.
There you go. That's the true test, though. Do you play it in the car and do the kids tell you to turn it off, Gareth? Is there a winner in the car this year for the wrestling team of the year? No, it was Osprey's Elevator once upon a time.
Yeah, well, if I put Seek Destroyer in the car, it ain't going off. So,
Gareth, you'd have to get the dog's favourite song soon, mate. Sorry.
Whichever one makes it jump out of the window on the M6.
Jesus Christ. Well, there you go. 4 different ones there. Love it. Moving on from Rig Entrance music, the last couple of on top of wrestling ones. Biggest surprise, i.e., it's always strangely worded, this one, because I didn't really good way of putting it. It's a bit like, I would say it's like Meltzer's most underrated award, isn't it, JP? But that's really badly worded as well. I think underpushed might be a better word for Meltzer, but it's kind of like the wrestler who impressed you the most or change your mind this year. I think at one point we called it like the U-turn of the year. Yeah, so it's a very specific one here, but I think people get what we mean. Who changed your mind this year? Who impressed you that you didn't expect to? Go on, JP.
I think there's one number one contender by Dominic Mysterio.
Yes, JP.
Like he really, he still is shit. Like, and this is like, and in some ways, it's like, is he like still the best? Is he now the best bad wrestler in the world as well? Like, is that where he kind of is? And so but I just love watching his act. Like, he just seemed to have just fucking nailed it. From the entrance, the jailhouse entrance of him coming out, like, at WrestleMania was incredible. And then ever since then, like, just him as part of the Judgment Day, him in NXT as a heat magnet and as a ratings draw. Like, when he first was there, like,
JP, he?
Yeah,
he's getting the rep.
And he's kind of finding his own character, and it's as far away from his dad as it could be, which was the entire problem. Was he was this guy who's kind of mimicking his dad, and his dad was fucking great, and he isn't. Like, it's the David Flair problem. It's like, well, you don't get him to act like Ric Flair. You need to be someone entirely different in the meantime. And that's what he is. And he completely changed my mind. He would have been switched it off. And now I'm like, I'm always intrigued. Even though I know his matches aren't great. Like, I'm not a fool. But at the same time, I am intrigued to see what he does. And yeah, he was like the runaway leader for this. It was like Logan Paul last year. But yeah, much more so this bloke.
Well, I was running through my choices with Steph before we hit record, and like that, literally both of us said Dominic Mysterio. I thought I'd have a unique take, but it sounds like it's going to be a common shout. And I think it was for me, Matt. It was the house show we were at. After Mania, the UK tour, when we Cody headline because Roman couldn't be asked. But you know,
big stars don't do house shows, Benno. Mainly your draws.
My sound off. Oh, maybe it's myself. But anyway, like for me being there live, it was the reactions of everyone there. It's like how big a star Cody was, you know, even down to like Otis being massively over in the building. That threw me. So I get that it's a house show and you know, reactions are going to be different. But I haven't heard heat that loud for anyone like that I hear for Dominic Mysterio there in the building. I mean, anyone in any building. You know, Jimmy Ray used to get a lot of heat in like ROH buildings, and you hear a lot of it like, oh, you piped that in for Dom on Raw. It's not even a real reaction. I know they've maybe done it at times. It's like the Goldberg thing, But whatever, like I was there, I experienced it. It was 100% real. It wasn't piped in. He got that much heat, and that was a bit of a turning point for me. I was like, okay, people are into this act, and it's one of those. That's wrestling, isn't it? The end product works. The end product works. He's not very good, you know. Part of the gimmick is he's not very good, but they've taken those ingredients and turned it into maybe not a wrestler who's good yet, but an act that is good and an act that works and is effective. And yeah, it surprised me that I've gotten into it this year. The Prison Dom stuff at WrestleMania. I remember Joe texting me probably the same thing he texted you, JP, about how much he pissed himself laughing at that when he come out with the mask on and the handcuffs. Like, just fucking brilliant, wasn't it?
Fucking incredible stuff. Like, it really was, and it had no right to be as good as what it was. And we had said, we were just like, this bloke is complete shit. What the fuck is going on? Why is he all over this? But it's just like, they just found there something, it clicked as well. I mean, I do want to give, I don't know, we haven't heard Gareth's yet, if Gareth's got anyone different in there. There's someone who's been mentioned in the chat who I think is like kind of a good notable shout for someone who's massively improved. But you said you're one, Gareth?
Yeah, I mean, for me, clearly, I'm not going for Dominic Mysterio because I haven't seen anything of him. But like the one for me is, if you like go back to when we recorded this show last year, this lad had one match in Rampage, and if you said to me in 12 months' time you're going to be saying to him that he's like a U-turn wrestler of the year, I wouldn't have believed you. But it's well, he was called W. Morrissey this time last year when we were recording, but this year he's called Big Bill, and like the idea now that he's like one of my, you know, highlights every single week watching AEW. I can't wait to see Big Bill on my screen. I cannot believe that. Like, as much as I say I've done the U-turn on Swerve Strickland, at least that's kind of feels a bit more of like a, I don't know, understandable U-turn kind of thing, and especially where he's been positioned on the card and the matches he's had. But like Big Bill's just like, the matches are great. His fucking charisma's just dripping off him. He's great on the stick, and like he's someone who I just want to see get more and more TV time and pushed, because he could genuinely be like a top guy. I think, which is wild to me. Like
their airport wrestler.
Yeah.
Passes the airport test, doesn't he?
100%.
Well, sorry, JP.
No, you go for it.
I'm just saying, like, I'm not picking Dom or Big Bill because I like W. Morrissey and Impact, like the Eddie Edwards stuff. Like, I think Eddie Edwards deserves credit for getting him back on track. He had some good matches in there and really got him back over strong. And with Dominic as well, because I've seen him like three and a half years now. Obviously he's not great, but I've always thought there's got to be something. You're Rey Mysterio's son, JP. You've got to have something about you. Do you know what I mean? Whether it be that, but I must have, for surprise, Benno, obviously I haven't got underrated. I've read it as it is. I've gone for LA Knight just because I didn't expect them to actually capitalize on what they had. Do you know what I mean? It's like they really went with it, and he got the big match with Roman out of it, which he genuinely earned just off organically getting over and selling the most merchandise and getting the biggest reactions of the show. And John Cena's putting you over and endorsing you. Like, they went all out with him. And it was fully deserved. And as I keep saying about LA Knight, whether it's his character, but I think it's more his real life persona as well. He's not one of these that's happy to be there. Thank you for this, thank you for that. He knows he earns his stripes over the years. And fair play to him. He's making the most out of it. And long may it continue.
Two things there. Like, for me, like I went straight to Dominic Mysterio, but I didn't even consider Big Bill, because in my head it's like I always loved him. No, I didn't. I thought he was shit like 18 months ago. Like, maybe not that, maybe a little bit further ago away than that, because his Impact run was good. We were raving about it at the time, but I hadn't really considered him. And so I think that's a good shout. And I agree with that too, because I just think in general, like, LA Knight's like he's in that same place that, like, maybe not the in-ring or actually any of the entertainment on TV goes, but I kind of felt like the same about Bray Wyatt. Felt the same about Braun Strowman when they got, specifically when they got sacked. For me, it was almost like I was rooting for them, because I was like, but at the end of the day, like, Braun Strowman was, selling merch, and Bray was selling fucking boatloads of merch, and it felt wrong. LA Knight felt a similar thing where it was like there's a clear fan push for him. He's maybe not for me, but I admire somebody who has clearly appealed to that fan base, and I watch him, and again, it's like he's not necessarily my kind of wrestler, but we talk about it every time he comes up. I admire his charisma, I admire his, I suppose he's one of those people. He's not even a bluffer, but he's got the confidence of a main eventer. He's standing next to Randy Orton, and he will not allow himself to be dwarfed by Randy Orton. He won't allow himself to be that, oh, I'm happy to be here with the real main eventer. Oh, isn't that great? He won't have that. He makes sure he's the star in any given situation. I've got loads of time for him for that reason. Still don't want to see his matches, but you know what I mean? It's I'm rooting for him. I want him to do well, and I'm glad that he broke through, and I'm glad that they saw sense and then went with him. And he's the last 4 until Punk came back, 4 of the last 5 months he's been the top merch seller, even over the Bloodline and Roman Reigns. That's
Randy Orton's up there now, Ben. I seen the latest December numbers.
Fair enough, yeah.
But he'll always be in the top 5, 100%. No matter who comes and goes, who returns. LA Knight will always. He sold the most merch this year. That just sums it all up, doesn't it?
It does. So yeah, I root for him in a strange way. I just don't want to watch his matches. But that's how I feel about the WWE product in general. But on that note, I suppose, if we're rooting for people, ties into the next one, which is, who are we most excited for in 2024? Who's the hot prospect? Who do we want to see well? Who are we expecting to do well? I suppose you could interpret it that way. Go on, Gareth. We'll go to you first, mate. What are you thinking for 2024? But I won't give away our answers last year. It might blow a couple of minds. This saying that my U-turn from last year was apparently Chris Jericho. No recollection of saying that. I've done another U-turn. The car's gone all the way back round again. Apparently. Logan Paul to be used to Gareth and Matty. JP said Sting. I don't know the context of that one. Can't remember.
Who did I say?
Logan Paul.
That's the biggest U-turn you're reading out on that one. He said wrestler who surprised you, so I don't know if it was a negative one there for Jericho. You actually had Swerve Strickland, Benno, which you fucking nailed, I have to say, for that one there.
Yeah. That's my excited for one.
Well, I think I might end up doing the same again, because looking at this, and I went to Keshta last year as my most excited for 2023, and obviously we saw how that one fucking turned out. But I'm most excited for next year for Hangman Page. I just feel like having had that Moxley feud and then them not really following it up, now coming off the back of this Swerve stuff, it feels like he's back up there again. And he just really feels to me now like he's got to be separated from the Elite stuff, going forward. I expect that he's going to be separated from the Elite stuff, and he very feels like this serious, Stone Cold Hangman Page kind of thing, can really kind of carry AEW as this guy who's got bags of charisma, can go in the ring, he's pretty cool, he can fucking get in there and have a blood feud with somebody, as well as just looking like a genuine star and things like that. It feels like if AEW are going to turn the corner next year, I think they really have to fucking put a big fucking rocket behind Hangman Page and just treat him seriously and push him seriously. And I kind of feel like they know that and understand that, and it feels like he's ready for it with the way he's been positioned at certain points now throughout the year. But hopefully I won't be sat here in 12 months' time saying the same as I'd be saying about Takeshita right now. But it just feels like he's the only man for me who, as the lead main eventer, can actually turn this negative tide around at an overall level for AEW at the moment.
Interesting.
Nice. Can I jump in? I've got one quick from each promotion, if that's okay, and I'm bending the rules, typical me. But I've got for AEW, it is Swerve Strickland. As Benno, you're always throwing there. I've always been a fan. Ever since I first laid my eyes on him in the Indies, I've always been a fan of him, and I'm made up that he's doing so well. And I just hope now he gets that world title run in AEW, because he's earned it. He's genuinely gone in there, been a part of a tag team, done his bit, worked his way up, had these big matches. He's over, he's cool, he's got everything going for him. Just go with it. Break the mold, so when he can't, just push him and do it. Just break your plans, even just push him and do it. Just really, he should be the world champion. And on the WWE side, which people mightn't agree with, it's more intrigued what to do with Solo Sikoa. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, but I think they protect him well. He got that big winner Cena where he just destroyed him. And I think, once again, he's not the best wrestler in the world, but you can protect him. And I hope they just pull the trigger on it and he eventually does be the one to, like, I won't say he'll dethrone Roman, but like maybe put Roman out for a bit properly with an injury and stuff. And I'm looking forward to where that goes. So they're the two I'm most excited to see what they do with in 24.
I suppose last year I went with Leon Slater, which kind of was like, you know, in some ways it did kind of end up panning out, but it's still, that's very much like a work in progress. So I kind of wanted to go with another Brit, and I do think, I'm hoping this is the year Luke Jacobs breaks out. That like we see like actually what is the potential. First of all, in Rev Pro, seeing whether or not he's going to be able to carry that. Like he'd be a good shout to have him dethrone Michael Oku in Manchester. You do for whenever they do a big show there, that, and then obviously eventually get that big win against Ishii, which needs to come up, and hopefully then work out a way of getting into kind of Japan, because that would be exciting to see. On the mentioned Big Bill already, just as someone kind of like different, and I want to mention, I haven't mentioned really anyone from Japan. Katsuhiko Nakajima, just because of the All Japan run. If he ends up, like I feel he probably will end up doing, just because of money that I see New Japan going for him, particularly if they're losing people and they've got a bit more budget to play with, would he go in there in a kind of featured position as well? And I'd like to say the same thing also for Yota Tsuji. Like if it were me, New Japan desperately needs like a revamp in all areas, and he feels like the most common sense guy to kind of go to. So Luke Jacobs is nominally my choice. But there are a few people you can go with.
Do you know you went with Carmelo Hayes last year, Matty?
Yeah, you know, he got on Raw and SmackDown a bit, had that rub off the Undertaker, so he come through a little bit.
It made me laugh when I saw that name. 100%. Yeah. And to clarify, I think, you said Sting last year for a wrestler who surprised you last year, JP. So that makes sense, because it was like, the fact that he went out there and was still
jumping
Sting,
off buildings.
Sting context, yeah. For me, for best wrestler most excited, like you say, last year I went for Sir Strickland. I'll go for 2 years in a row, but he can share the awards with Hangman Page. So I'm kind of along the lines of Gareth there. In that, like, that was funny because last year I was excited. It was just like Swerve showing potential, go with him. And you know what? They've gone with him at the appropriate level. They haven't, Vince Russo pushed him and immediately he's a main eventer. He's clearly in a promotion where me and JP talk all the time about the fact that there doesn't seem to be a real depth chart and there doesn't seem to be a roster to climb. He has climbed. He has clearly moved up. He is up a couple of pegs on where he was this time last year. I'd like him to be up another couple of pegs, and I think that the sky is the limit for him, so let's do it. And Hangman Page is, for all the reasons we said earlier about our disappointment in him this year, I'd back, what Gareth said and what we've all kind of said at different points about Hangman Page. Like, he should be the main character of AEW. He absolutely should be. And I should probably, I would have liked to have said Hangman Page and Swerve where they were probably in competition for my wrestler of the year. They couldn't really compete with Ospreay's in ring. But as far as characters, as far as wrestlers I enjoy watching, as far as wrestlers where, like I said, the Roman Reigns argument earlier, Matty, it's not just the matches, it's who they are as people and like where they fit into all their different stories they've told over the last 2 years. They're probably my two favorite wrestlers in AEW. I just want to see them both push on and be utilized to the strength of what they are. I think it'll happen with Swerve. Hangman, there just always seems to be something in the way, doesn't it? But hopefully, as we've said, 2024 is the year. That's what
they should be clear rivals, though. They should. That story can always be told. Swerve wins the title, comes up against Hangman and you can always just go back to it. Just keep it simmering in the background. It writes itself, really. It really does. And I want to say by breaking the mold, it's like Khan has these like 3 or 4 people. He's got to be the champion. Just give him it. He deserves it. Especially with MJF could be injured and such. Putting Samoa Joe in matches. I know you're Joe guys, but come on. Fucking hell,
He was your worst wrestler of the year last year when we get to the crappies, Jesus.
He was bad though. No, he's rekindled himself, but come on, boys.
For a month. But anyway, everyone has a bad month. But yeah, there you go. Fool me twice with Hangman. But I'm excited for them in 2024. Let's hope we get going. And last kind of on topic wrestling news story of the year. There's 2 candidates for me and you, JP. Should we handle this one first? should be the Grapple YouTube video of the year. What was our best subject? Was it CM Punk or was it Wembley? I think it's got to be one of the two, hasn't it?
You can have Punk and I'll have Wembley, because I used to love, like, if I can go in for it, as someone who used to love a bit of box office kind of statistics and stuff, and still manage to do it in my day job to include it, the idea of following it was enormous. Like, I'm not going to get into the gripes I had with the build and what this could have potentially been, but it was the fact that another company that wasn't WWE ran Wembley fucking Stadium and sold 81,000 tickets. That's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. Like, we, you know, when it was first announced, we honestly to God thought, has he fucked up and he's meant to say Wembley Arena? That was like my initial reaction when Adam Cole had announced it. But do you know what? They did the biggest paid attendance for a wrestling show in history. That feels like the one statistic I feel confident in stating. And I didn't ever think I'd be at Wembley Stadium watching a wrestling show, because I always assumed if WWE would be there, it'd be too expensive and I wouldn't be that bothered. So it ticked those kind of boxes. It was fucking incredible. And seeing the kind of minutiae of how it developed and other stuff, and then the snowball effect of people wanting to be there. I think that was the other thing, is it started to sell a lot of tickets because people wanted to be there as part of this massive crowd. So then it sold loads more tickets, and it was like this virtuous circle. And yeah, it did great stuff for us on fucking YouTube. Like, it gave us a topic to talk about every spotlight / weekend show. And yeah, it was like manna from heaven. And I never got that bored of it. I really didn't.
And it's a positive one, you know. People make fun of us for the clickbait. It's a hot button subject at the minute. Sorry, just the way YouTube works, you know. It's about
blame YouTube for that.
Hey, if you don't click it, you don't get it.
The rules of the game.
I can't, unfortunately. Don't hate the player, hate the game, as a wise man once said. But yeah, Punk's a positive one. Sorry, not Punk. Punk's a negative one. Wembley's a positive one. You know, anytime it came up, it was like, oh my god, like, you know, they've sold this many tickets, they've sold that many tickets. We did about 10 videos in a row. It was like, they've hit 40,000, they've hit 50,000, they've hit 60,000. Obviously, we tempted it with, and the booking's fucking crap. So there is a negative too.
My proudest prediction moment was saying that was going to do 75,000 tickets. Yeah, I never thought that, but it just, there was something about it where you just thought, it's not that the stars were aligned, but it was people underestimate, if you're not from Europe, and I'll say Europe in a general sense, but particularly like the UK and Ireland, how wrestling fans are pretty fucking hardcore here, and we are starved. We don't have the option of just bunking off Dynamite, because we don't get fucking Dynamite over here, or Collision. So you put a big show in Wembley Stadium, and we're going to be there, in droves. And it appears to be this time round the lesson learned. And a name that was brought up in the chat for one of the earlier categories about someone you're looking forward to for 2023, Jamie Hayter being a focal part of this, like, All In would be something that would be like great as well. It feels like they're the storylines that they're going to end up telling. But yeah, fucking brilliant.
And they're asking what was Benno's original prediction. I think I said like 25,000, something like that. Let's leave that one in the past, along with my likely unlikely that we'll be getting into in the Crappy section. But oh well. But I'm with JP. It's probably my news story of the year. But to pick a different one, I'll throw in Punk as well. Just the everything. You know, we had Brawl out last year. This year we got Brawl in. Just fucking brilliant. I
had
every
Punk,
element of it.
To be honest, I had that as my moment, but then it changed.
The best or worst, Matt. Like the man is, even if he's not like a major draw when it comes to wrestling, he's a draw, I'd argue. But like where he does draw numbers, it's just in pure news, innit? Everything the man does, everything he says. Remember when he went backstage at WWE like this year, and that was fucking massive. Or
like, the Miz in that.
Yeah. And then is he going to go back to WWE and then come back to WWE, and then what's he going to do backstage at WWE? CM Punk as a news story has got to be the 1B to Wembley's 1A for me.
It's just, as you say, every step he does, every movement is just reported on like it's the biggest thing in the world. So it's testament to where it's at, isn't it? And a testament to the man himself. He remains, as you say, Benno, for better or worse, he remains just that guy, doesn't he? So yeah, let's see what he does in the next 6 months or so. He'll keep us on our toes.
Yeah, it's funny, like, because obviously you've got WWE merges with UFC, and Vince McMahon relinquishes control sort of the WWE is like such a enormous historical news story with, like, you know, when you think about like everything in terms of like the construct of the wrestling industry for so many years. But I agree, it is CM Punk. Like at the end of because it's just from the moment that we were like sat in Wembley, and I think it was Crewy. Was it Crewy got the text through or something like that?
Yeah,
about
it was.
the fight in the background. So we're all sat there like, apparently there's been a fight, kind of, like, you know, and the rumors are starting to go around and things like that. Right through to if you take that as the news story, right through to the ripple effects of CM Punk stood there next to fucking Paul pointing at him with the WWE logo in the background. Like, makes me feel sick to the pit of my stomach, but like fucking what a mind-blowing, like never, like, what a news story. Like, think when did we see that happening when we were in fucking Wembley in August? Did we see 3 months down the line him stood there with fucking Triple H? Like, mental.
I know he did, bastard. What a cunt.
And I was going to say, and to show you where the year has come, if you look at where we went last year for all of the awards, and Liam mentions this in the chat as well, we all went with Vince McMahon last year, and I think it would have been like him effectively looking like he was turfed out. We had him work his way back in this year and then get properly turfed out. And the merger with the idea of them selling to Endeavour and becoming this monolith of a company that is Vinceless and all the better for it. Like, that's probably what you would say is like the biggest story. It wouldn't be like the news story that means the most to us necessarily in some ways, because a lot of it's like kind of corporate shenanigans and they're not exactly the most exciting things. But it's the reason probably why we all ended up going with WWE as our promotion of the year, is those kind of fucking moves.
That big change.
Yeah,
that was a massive one we covered, week on week as well. Like, weekend show seems to be where the news happens, doesn't it, JP? And that's been a kind of a constant as well. It doesn't quite do the numbers, not as salacious as the other stuff, but it does. It is in hit, like Liam says, in 5-10 years, that's you look back with a bit of hindsight, and that'll probably be thought of as the big story from this year, definitely. Moving on from there, a little bit of a self-serving one, lads. Favorite Grapple Patreon episode as we get into the fun ones.
I've got two.
Yeah, I think
I've got two, and they both come from Dealer's Choice. I'm gonna pick one of my own, which I think I set the template for yours, which is my other choice, Benno. I'll go with Steve first because I give everyone a fucking shit lot of homework, and everyone. That was February.
Jesus.
You could have told me that was 2 years ago, mate, and I'd have gone along with that.
I might have to rethink. Yeah,
so I had Steve, but then that bled into, I think, September, the most recent Dealer's Choice, where we all, I think it was the best collective month. I think you've gone on record to say that, Benno, since the Patreon was there. Everyone had great shows.
It's a list,
but your Sean show, I fucking had a blast with that, and I love the video you made of that where you cut the half an hour down and you put the stills in. I just added to it. I love that, but I think we've done some great shows this year, and obviously some of the King of the Mountain choices have been brilliant as well. But it's a toss up between Steve and Sean, so I can't really decide there.
Endless battle of life, innit? Toss up between Steve and Sean.
I generally like to go for one that I'm not on if I can do it. So I do want to say the 5-to-1 tag teams / TV themes. Like, I was openly pissing myself on the way
performance of the year, that JP for sure. Yeah. I say it individual.
There was an ECW.
I've still never heard it, so I couldn't comment.
There was an ECW show we did. I remember once we did it as a flashback. It's described as my flair in '92. That was Gareth's flair in '92 moment. That was the TV themes, singing them to you, Benno and Matty. Just like no reaction. I had to watch the video for it as well. It was just fucking incredible, and I was just like, they must know this. They must know. No chance.
Not a clue.
And it was brilliant. All the better. It was a cracking drunk performance as well, because it wasn't like loud or over the top. It was like kind of nicely subtly pissed at that stage, and it was just glorious stuff. Like,
it
proper
feel
work.
Subtle the next day.
You mean when you got to the end of Spotlight and I spliced the clip up your face?
I was stood in Lime Street and that suddenly played. I was like, oh, there you go. I'm fucking paying the price for listening all the way to the end. Unbelievable.
Let's throw those in. How about you, Gareth?
I mean, the one for me that stands out is the Punk versus Joe trilogy. It was something that I'd always wanted to watch. And to go through that, it was like right up my wheelhouse of one, it been CM Punk, but two, it just been like proper matches, nuanced matches that is just loads of detail that you could get your fucking teeth into, and then just think about like the next match and how it then like applied to the previous one. Obviously getting Jamesy on for it as well, kind of thing to chat through that. That was like, I just remember lying in bed after we'd recorded and I just couldn't sleep because I was just buzzing so much. Like I was just thinking about it all. So the conversations that we'd all had, you putting like the history of it there, that was first class. But as much as this pains me to say it as like a very close number two, it is Sean. Like that was a fucking great show. That was a fucking great show to do.
Great.
I loved that show. It was such good fun. And then, like Matty says, what the work you did with it, Benno, with the clips and things like that, to watch it on
best
on
video
YouTube.
You put out, Benno. That amazing stuff. That.
Outstanding stuff. Like I love it. Great bit of work.
Oh yeah, I made up that one went so well. We were crunching the numbers recently, and it was up there as far as our most listened to shows ever as well. So I made up that it went down well, because in the midst of making it, I just kept adding stuff, didn't I, to that Connor inspired playlist. I was like, I'm setting myself up here for when Matty gets his revenge. I was like, oh, I better include that Raw match, or I better include that from that pay-per-view. Oh, that's a must watch, that one.
We had this entire literal run of 96.
I did, yeah. But that's the thing. Again, it's best versus favorite. Like, by no means think that's his best stuff was in that year, but it's my favorite year as a fan, because I was 12 and he was my hero and I thought he was the best wrestler in the world. So yeah, that's got to be in there for me as like a labor of love. I think it was this year, wasn't it? We was 5-1 wrestling themes was this year. I was going to say I say labor of love. That was labor intensive, but it was. I think it turned out well. I had a bit of a meltdown during the.
That nearly broke you, Benno. Legit.
It's not even a joke. It did.
Yeah.
Came out the other end of that one in the end, and it actually turned out good. So I was just proud that came out in one piece and was a good show. So that's one in there for me.
And I know
Liam saying there the Mega Powers explode. That was one that I'd wanted to do for years, and like it's just good to see that get mentioned in the chat there, because like
I'm really interested to see what the patrons think, because obviously it shows.
Think though, how many fucking great shows, and then you're talking about like weekend show and stuff like that has been just every week. The weekend show just been like a highlight of the week. It's okay, it's not a theme, but just been your little news update and just little start of the weekend. Obviously, I'm never on it, so I'm just listening to you guys do it. It's like I fucking buzz off the weekend show every week. And like, if you listen to this and you're not a patron, what, £6 lowest tier? You could be listening to that. You can be listening to all these shows. Fucking hell, treat yourself. £6.
I've got to mention again, boys, and I've told you before, I'm not underselling this at all, JP. When you said about Billy Gunn, and the way you deliver it, that he doesn't sell for his own fucking kids. JP, you don't understand how many times I've rewound and played that. If I'm just feeling a bit, I just put it on YouTube and it gets another 10 plays, mate. Oh my God, it's so fucking funny.
But yeah, weekend show is probably my favorite thing we produce. So like, yeah, that's thanks for
love that
on that one, Gareth. So yeah, we have a cracking time on that one. Always feels like the weekend's here when Eddie Murphy hits. Well, if we ever get monetized properly on YouTube, that might have to go. I'll be devastated when that day comes. We can find the sound on.
I tell you what, if you don't like my singing on that tag team one, you definitely don't want to see me fucking dancing around my kitchen to that Eddie Murphy thing.
We do. We fucking do.
But yeah, I've got to very quick as well. We've kind of said all the shows this year, but yeah, Punk and Joe obviously was a great trilogy. I always remember on Crui's tag him turn into it was like getting up, you know, like people talk about like the dad being stern when they grew up and you never got a kind word from him. And Cruy pulled me aside on his stag do to say how much he enjoyed Punk and Joe. I was like, okay, that means something. That don't get praised that off from Cruy, so I'll take it. So that's in there for me as well. But your dealer's choice is always that the highlight. I've got one coming up in February as well. But the Deadly Game one, that was a corker too. They've all been great, haven't they? So we'll definitely.
My favorite month. I love doing the dealer's choice. Intrigued with what you guys pick. It's just great stuff.
Loads more where that came from. But yeah, I suppose on that note, so that's the that's the one where we pat ourselves on the back. Let's pat some other people on the back, podcast wise. I've changed this one, Matty. It's 2023, so it couldn't just be best podcast anymore, could it? Realize that's kind of like we do one, but it's becoming a bit of an outdated term, I think. Best podcast / content creator, we've gone with here, wrestling and non-wrestling, to allow us to include YouTube, because I think that's kind of taken over, like, especially for me.
That's why I get me audio, as well.
I'm sorry to say it, but I barely. It's for audio podcasts. Like, I will make sure I get Lanza's Dynamite review in. I will make sure, to be honest, not even every week, but most weeks I'll get Tom Martin in. Outside of that, it's if you're not on YouTube, you're not getting listened to by me or what. That's why I've spent this year trying to get the Grapple YouTube up and running, and yeah, we were very late to that game. It's only the second half of this year we've started doing that, but yeah, YouTube content creator space. Like, I'll go first. I'll throw up from a wrestling point of view, and I'm kind of glad that I've got quite a few people into this. It seems Andy Ogden mentioned he's been listening to them because of me. I think you have as well, Matty. The What Culture lads, Pamphlet and Sidgwick especially. Like, I know it's What Culture, so like, if you'd have told me that 2 years ago, I'd be like, oh, fucking YouTuber, British, whatever. Like, I'd have just been like, on site, I'm not listening to that, I'm not watching that. Like, yeah, their stuff, that the What Culture Wrestling podcast, so that particular YouTube channel where, you know, it's their shows, it's the reviews, like, just fantastic. Like, especially like Sidgwick and Hamlet are very they are listeners to Grapple, so they have got quite a few things in common with us when it comes to takes on AEW and stuff. But as far as like balanced, nuanced breakdown of AEW and WWE, like, I struggle to find much better right now. I love their stuff, and I watch it every day on YouTube now. I know you've started watching this stuff as well, Matty.
I'm just a big Hamlet guy, lah. He's a WWE lifer like myself, so we'll always have that in common.
Does snacks as well, like you, mate. That's
he does. He's a fucking top man. Love his takes, and yeah, it's just that's same with me, Benno. Come in from work, put YouTube on. They always pop up straight away on my algorithm, so just get to press play on. Love it.
Yeah. Any other wrestling ones for you? You're either watching or listening to?
One you got me into, Benno, is I don't watch it all the time. It's got to perk my interest, but is that Stevie Richards one, the wrestling analysis, like just like little bits of that, you know, they're only short kind of things, so it's just a good little, say, you don't have to watch it all the time, but if it's just a little something that just perks my interest, it's always good just to see that kind of like just getting broken down, and it's so
loves Brett, Gareth, doesn't he? Loves Brett.
Who doesn't?
He loves him. Yeah. Benno.
I do. Not as much as you, not as much as Sean. Yeah, he's great. What a great YouTube channel. Maven's one's good too, but that one feels a little bit more he's chasing the clicks, whereas Stevie.
He gets them though, Benno. He gets some views, Maven.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, but Stevie does well too. But yeah, it's that wrestler brain thing that I thought, yeah, Gareth will enjoy this. It's those little things that the wrestlers do. Like, he can like Goldberg spearing him. He got like a 20-minute video out of it, and it was genuinely engaging. Everything he said about it, it's brilliant. So I like that too.
I'd like to give a shout out, I suppose, to a couple. I mean, I know Kim Justice has started making some more like videos, which is sort of all about like the kind of like history of like certain periods of Japanese wrestling. I always find those brilliant and really well worth listening to as well. I also want to give a shout out to a couple of our mates, really. I want to say Graps and Claps, particularly Shite, when Matty's on there. It's brilliant, and it's kind of essential, and it is like the only thing of record that's covering like British wrestling, and obviously love Andy and Jeff to bits, so I can listen to them all day, and I can imagine like when they're recording it exactly what pub they're in when they're recording it, sitting down having a chin wag, and it's always fucking brilliant and must see matches just in terms of that just overall project as well. I know that we've appeared on there as well, and
I hear me on that too.
Yeah,
excellent.
Got the collection done now.
So, want to give a chat. And Poison Rana, I love what Davey and Braden have done with their format. Yeah. And they do their Sunday and the countdown for that as well.
I love
that. Yeah, like I say, if like just they've got, speak about like when they talk about NXT, I'll always listen to them, but there's much broader scope than that as well, and particularly on Poison Rana. And I love the format of it.
We've taken influence from that.
Yeah, we have.
With the first few weeks, and we're like, oh man, that's brilliant. We need to be more like that. That's the way you do it.
Like, it's like really properly like organised and structured. But I also want to give the shout out again to the What Culture lads, which is something again really surprised that I would have found myself like kind of listening to, because there was always that kind of like slight stigma, I think, of What Culture and the like as well. But no, happily proved wrong on that. So
Well, mine, if I'm getting the podcast phone out of a night, that's strictly audio. That's still only the Comrade Network, but it's not all 6 episodes shows now. It's strictly Jim Ross is one, Grill and JR, and I still listen to Something to Wrestle With. They're the two. Bruce Pritchard and Jim Ross, I'll still listen to them every week religiously. YouTube-wise, I love Click This with Kevin Nash and Sean Oliver. I just think they're like two 50-odd-year-old men, Nash 60, they're still cool. They talk about like life stuff, and I'd love to just be with them, having a chinwag and a chat and just shooting the shit with them. And I do love, you're gonna laugh at this one, but I could listen to them all day, recite the dictionary, and that's Franchise University with Shane Douglas, boys. Honestly, no, boys. It's incredible. I could honestly listen to Douglas talk about a subject that I'm not in, like cars. I hate cars, but I could listen to him and I'd go, oh yeah, I'll give them a go now, Shane, because he's like described it. Honestly, he's amazing on that, and the stories he tells. Obviously, still got his hatred for the clicking there, Gareth. So he'll always have that. But
good lad.
Love listening to him as well. But non-wrestling, I've got to go with Under the Cosh.
Sorry. And just throw in. Chris Elliott said that. I love that. They're from you and didn't even know Shane Douglas had a podcast.
Get on it, you.
Neither did anyone until Matty just mentioned it.
No, I did.
Chris Elliott mentioned the chat. Eagles don't hunt fries with Martin Bushby, Brandon and Dickie on the Poison Rana feed. Might hear me with a couple of those lads this week, and Matty. So yeah, that's definitely what those. Give a shout out to those lads, and yeah, post in general. I've got to say, like as Pollock and Kirsten, like that informs a lot of our stuff, how we do the news the weekend and stuff like that. We take a lot of our news comes from Brandon's report, and that's been a great addition. I meant to mention it on something we did this week, but almost gave the game away there. But like, yeah, they are like that is been a massive addition to my stuff this year. But yeah, there are a couple of extra ones for me. But yeah, go ahead, Matty. Do you want to get going with the non-wrestling stuff?
Sorry for jumping in, Ben. Yeah, I've gone same as last year, Under the Cosh. It's like I've got Gareth on board with that, haven't I, Gareth? Are you nearly up to date with that, or?
Oh, I'm getting there. I mean, I've just hit the pandemic.
Love it, but there's
completest as ever. I've had to go right back. I listen to the ones when they come out every week, but then I've gone back to the very start.
Oh, okay.
And I'm listening to 5 years of podcasts. So
you done the John Gregory one then? Have you done that one?
Yeah, John Gregory.
Oh, it's brilliant, that one. Yeah, but that's just an amazing. JP, you'd love it with all like the lower league, especially when you get lower league players on.
Okay.
Like, it's done the craft down them leagues and some of the stories with the managers, and it's incredible. And the hosts are great, aren't they, Gareth? They're just having a laugh talking about it. There's no one like deadly serious on it. It can get a bit serious, of course, with some of the stories, but all in all, it's just a good laugh, isn't it?
Looking forward to that live show.
Yes, Gareth, I'll be there, mate, with you sitting right next to me. Fucking can't wait for that. But also, if this counts as well, it's patting us on the back as well. It's time. I've got to give that a shout out, because I'm finally made up. It's come to fruition, and Liam, honestly, he is fucking the drives that Gareth. He's the wheelman of podcasts. You're in real life. He's the wheelman that drives us through the fucking show. He gets all the lists together, boys, doesn't he? And I just love whenever we record, just sitting back and just diving right into whatever year we're in there. I fucking love that show.
I just love listening to Liam just talk.
Even Shane Douglas, I can listen to all day.
He knows everything about everything. Like when you get him on about music,
Liam,
get him on the boxing or something like that. I just love listening to him. Just fucking just wax lyrical.
Liam with Shane Douglas would be a hell of a podcast.
Oh, mate.
Is that our grapple? No, I always say it like I don't think there's a bigger fan of Time than me, and I mean it. And I said it to Liam when I saw him in Newcastle. Like, I love that show. I love listening to it. And it is, you know what? We were talking Patreon shows before, so it didn't really come up. But as far as the best thing we produced this year, it's Time. Man, you forget it. You started that this year. So I mean, that's the best thing on the network, 100%. For me, like non-wrestling, like it's just a who's who of niche YouTube channels, isn't it? I like watching I like watching people walking. I like
$5
I like watching people bet. I like watching people do delivery runs.
Don't mention it. Please mention it. I forgot to mention it. You mention it, please.
Love a bit of Travel Ruby.
Yes.
I love the Vegas. I still watch the Vegas content, even though it was 2 years ago I went. But I'm probably going to go back, I think, at some point next year. So there's that. But yeah, Action Kid's my current favourite as far as like there's a lot of walking tours around New York and London and such. Definitely informed my my trip to London this weekend. But yeah, I love that. I love Planet FPL as far as FPL stuff still going. FPL Raptors another favourite. But too much to list, really. I've got such a long list. When I saw Rory and Marl live this year of the formerly of the Joe Budden podcast, yeah, that's where my entertainment is. Like 7 hours a day if I'm working at home. I've got YouTube running with all kinds of different stuff on there. It's not all wrestling these days. I'm branching out, you know. How about you? Any others?
I've got politics one for me, as to be boringly predictable about it, and I want to go with The Rest Is Politics, which is a one with Alistair Campbell and Rory Stewart, which is one of these sensible discourse that's generally like they're very good at being kind of like brutally honest. I know people have obviously a wide variety of opinions about Alistair Campbell, but he's very, very engaging as like a podcast host, and Rory Stewart is effectively playing the role of good Tory, the person who can see the flaws in the Conservative Party and the rest of it. So it's very much like a proper, sensible, solid debate. And I was very happy, even though it's only one episode, but the return of the Tuesday Club, the best Arsenal podcast, the one hosted by Alan Davis, which is just like fucking tremendous. But I'd be stunned if either of you three have listened to that, because you really do need to be an Arsenal fan for that kind of stuff. But cracking entertainment.
Definitely. Any others? Anything you want to throw, Gareth?
I haven't got time to listen to anything else from all the under the cosh that I'm catching up on. But I'll always reference the Spanish football podcast on this every single year. It still remains my most listened to non-grapple podcast of the lot. Fucking cracking show. If you're remotely interested in Spanish football and you don't listen to it, listen to it.
Benno, I've got to throw in as well. It's not a show. It's an actual content creator that I follow. Is Pizzal. I think I mentioned him before. He's just a big into this horror. Any horror like Blu-ray that gets reviewed, he's all over it, unboxings and showing you the packaging and what extras you get, and he breaks down the film as well. So if you're anyone's a horror fan in the chat, just search for Pizzal on YouTube. He's fucking, I love him anyway. I think he's good.
I'm just looking at my YouTube now. I even follow a YouTuber who does YouTube videos about YouTubing, and he teaches how to YouTube on YouTube. It's a great channel. Nate Black, a shout out to him. Helps you set your thumbnails up and how to beat the algorithms. I'm into that.
Gareth's face when you were describing though, like watching that guy who bets. Honestly, unbelievable stuff.
Vegas man, great man. Well, yeah, on that note then, so past there, what have we got left there? The 4 pillars of time. We'll probably have to do these relatively quickly because we have got another show to record when we end the live the live showing of this for everyone to look forward to. But 4 pillars of time: film, TV show, album, and sport moment of the year. This one's dedicated to Liam, as they were actually already in the list: film, TV show, album, and sport moment. But as we say, they're the 4 pillars. Matty, do you want to lead us off?
I'll do them all in order then, shall we? Should we just do all 4 together? Yeah. Well, right. My film of the year is John Wick 4. I actually went to pictures about 10 times this year, so I threw John Wick 4 in there. Like, I love the franchise. Number 2 was a bit of a miss for me, but that last one, number 4, was crying at the end, JP. I mean, can we spoil it? I mean, he will come back, won't he? But I hope he doesn't, though. I hope that's it, and I hope they end it with that, because it was perfect ending for me. So hopefully they don't redeem that. Album-wise, I've listened to fuck all that got released in 2023, so I'm going to do a re-listen of the album I've listened to the most this year, which is Edema by Edema. And that's a new metal album from 2001. So that's the one I'm putting in there. My sporting moment is Michael Smith's 9 data from the World Championship Finals with Wayne Mardell's I Can't Speak. It's just unbelievable commentary. Never be topped. What a moment in fucking history, not just this year. Sporting history, that 9-dart leg, where both of them were on a 9-darter, Smith and Van Gerwen. And TV-wise, boys, I haven't even rewatched nothing from Mad Men. I'm still into, but I'm struggling. I'm only 3 seasons into that. So TV-wise, as I say, what Benno says, my TV watching is YouTube, so I can't really pick a TV show, boys, to be fair.
Interesting. How are you, JP?
So for these, I've gone film-wise, and I did. John Wick 4 was one that was going to be close up to there, but I've actually gone with I tend to go with horror films for this. I've gone with Talk to Me, which, I mean, I saw it this year. It was on Netflix. It managed to come onto that. It's an Australian horror film, and it's fucking brilliant. It's absolutely like fucking awesome as well for this. Album of the year, I've gone with Medusa by Annie Lennox from 1995, because that shows you, just out of spite, that I will not listen to contemporary music if I can get away with it. And it's partly because I've had the song No More I Love Yous in my head because of a show that I'm watching on Disney Plus. I digress for that. TV show, there's 2 here, very, very different. One is The Last of Us, because it was like properly done, and I thought it was just brilliantly cast, brilliantly paced. The episode where they changed from the game quite dramatically, but they still got the same outcome for it was fantastic there as well. And the other TV show is Bluey, which I wouldn't have watched if I didn't become a dad again this year. Which I cannot stress to you how fucking incredible a kid's show that is. Like, for a show that deals with life in suburban Brisbane, state of origin, cricket, miscarriage. I didn't fucking stumble there when I said that one as well. All manner of kind of big themes regarding life, death, the nature of family, and what it is to work in an oil rig out in Western Australia. Like, I just love this shit. And the state of origin one, I hope you watched it, Gareth, because it was like they had fucking Rabs and Thurston on commentary, and it was just like brilliant. Even went back and overturned a fucking try and all sorts, and it all builds up to one of the dads from Queensland. They live in Queensland, but the mum's from New South Wales, and they're feeling bad that she has to sit over the other side. And then they unite against the New Zealand family, who are sheepdogs as well. It's just fucking layers to that in there as well at the same time. Best sporting moment, Reece Nelson's goal against Bournemouth. I was watching it here with Tom and Max, and I lost my fucking shit. 2-0 down. I genuinely thought we were going to win the league that day. But then I said the same thing. Danny Welbeck scored a last-minute goal against Leicester when me and Tom were there, and it didn't fucking happen. We didn't win the league after that, but it was just a fucking nuts moment, like, for that goal. And just, you could see it from several different angles, like Zinchenko just dropping to his knees and then onto the floor as this happens. Odegaard with his head in his hands. It was like a memeable moment, but yeah, brilliant.
Love it. How about you, Gareth?
Film of the year, it's like few and far between for me. I think me and Sarah have only got to the cinema once together this year, and that was to watch The Killer by David Fincher, which was good, but it wasn't great, but it was it was very good. But it's sort of like by default, it's my film of the year because I literally can't think of another film that was released this year that I've even watched. So, but good enough to put in the list. Album of the year, that one's a bit harder. I've gone with Chaos for the Fly by Green Chatham of the Fontaines DC. Did his own solo album this year, which was absolutely boss there. There was Run Close by the Murder Capitals album this year, Gigi's Recovery, which is a fucking belter as well there. So 2 good Six Music Dad recommendations there for you. there for you. TV show, I'm going with The Bear, which I've just fallen in love with this year, and the Christmas episode of that in season 2 is just like one of the greatest bits of TV like ever. It's like top 10 episodes of all time, that one. And sporting moment is Workington Reds beating Runcorn Linnets 2-1 in the playoff final to get promoted to the Northern Premier League Premier, which was maybe the best day of the year for me, that one.
Gareth,
God bless you, Lewis Riley.
I've seen you in full effect, mate, when you get the scores through, and I think it's for Liverpool, but it's not. It's for Workington, is it? Mate, I've seen it, and I love it. Fucking love it.
Brilliant. Yeah, for me, for my ones, I would probably say Film, I'm in a similar boat to you guys. It is not as barren a year as last year. I've got plans of. I've made a big watch list on Letterboxd, and I'm planning on catching up with as much as I can from 2023. Before I was going to the cinema, I went to see 2 films: Barbie and Fast 10. So not exactly a race to the top there, but in some ways, Fast 10 was a marked improvement on the previous Fast. So I'll throw that in there. It did get a 3.5 out of me, and Barbie was, for what it was, great. Probably by default, it's Barbie if you're talking 2023 films. Oppenheimer is on my list, JP. I will do you proud. I'll watch that over the festive period at some point. It's got to be there. So yeah, we'll get there. But yeah, I think TV show. I thought it'd be harder than it was. Last of Us, definitely. I'd forgotten, that would count as this year, JP. That was for a subject matter, zombies and shit. That would not usually be of interest to me.
Yeah,
absolutely loved it. Thought that was great. But yeah, Succession's last season coming into this year makes it an easy choice. It's got to be Succession for me. Music wise, I did listen to a few things from this year. Travis Scott's Utopia might be one that people might not expect from me, but yeah, Atmospheric is probably the way for that. I remember listening to that. I think it was it Drive to Wembley. I was definitely going to London and back, and we had my dad's car, and like I listened to it all the way there, and it wouldn't have been Wembley. It would have been a different weekend all the way there and all the way back. So yeah, that one's up there for me as a bit of a current rap as I tried desperately to reclaim my youth. What haven't I done? TV, film, music, sport. Yeah.
I was gonna say
Everton staying up, I suppose. Didn't really care. Don't tell me.
Liam's put a great one in the chat about when Ngannou knocked down Fury. Just for that fucking moment was fucking hilarious because that was just going completely against. That was like a moment.
It was great. I was so glad. So we went to Coventry to watch Impact. So me and Steph were in a pub, and it was just by chance. We're like, fuck it, let's watch it. And I've had a fucking great time watching that. So that could be in there. Probably any number of great FPL weeks that I had this week or this year. Also terrible FPL weeks. I could probably go in there. That's what counts as a sport moment for me.
Can I say as well? I agree with Platt. Like, I can't wait for New Year's weekend because I'm doing nothing, seeing no one. My phone's going on silent. We're not recording. We're not doing fuck all. Me and Steph are sitting down, and I'm finally finishing the story, JP. Saw 10. It's finally going to happen. I cannot fucking wait for it. Blu-ray copy as well. I might buy it on physical and treat myself, JP. Come on.
Mate, you'll love it. You really will do. A return to form for the Saw lads. Yes. And mate, is there law? Fucking shitloads. Yeah. Can't move for the law.
We love it.
Well, last one, Matty, in the GRAPPY section. It's your section. I'll let you take over, mate. What have we got for our final awards in what has now become a yearly tradition?
This is the big 6, boys. This is your soft drink of the year, your crisp, your chocolate, your beer, your overall meal, and your food gaff / establishment, whatever you refer to it as. Right. I'll go first if that's okay. Basically, if you haven't got one down, like I explained to Gareth, it's what you've reached out for the most this year and what you've consumed the most if you can't decide on your favourite. So, soft drink is...
mate. Just give me a second.
Yeah. I do want to know what you've ordered from the most, Benno. You can.
You know what? You're looking, my battery's gone because I got a thing from Monzo today that was like, like the Spotify year wrapped. It was like, we're looking for money on this. Yeah.
Please let me know.
It was horrible. It was horrible. And you don't want to know how much I spent on just eating Uber Eats.
I really do.
I'll charge my phone while you're talking. Yeah. Maybe I'll tell you. It's bad.
Right. My soft drink of the year is Coke Zero. Obviously, you can't have sugar, boys, as you know. And Coke Zero, we get a crate a month, JP. We get 24 on the shopping from Asda.
Why am I laughing? It's not your diabetes is not a laughing matter.
It's okay, JP. I know your sense of humour. Don't worry, it's fine. But at the minute, we've got like 86 cans in there. There's only me and Steph that live here, and we're not going to visit. We're going to visit people. No one's coming here, but she mixed it up, got some Dr. Pepper Zero, some Pepsi Max with lime, but ultimately there's Coke Zero and always will be. Crisp, sour cream sunbites I've gone with as a whole grainy snack kind of thing instead of proper crisp, which I've got to eat these days. Well, so they say.
Money's getting spent there, Jesus.
Yeah. Chocolate, I obviously can't have it, so I'll go with the Kind bars. They've got like different flavours now. that was the first time I seen all the different flavors when I went to York and seen all the train stations. And when I went to America, Benno, in New York, mate, fuck me, they had so many fucking flavors of this kind. I thought it was a UK thing, and they only had 2. There's about 12 different flavors in fucking New York. Honestly, Benno, I Steph, I walked in, it was like, Jesus, I just got one of each. Just got one of every one. So kind bars are the way forward for me. Beer. Go on, Ben, I'll share it. Are these proper beers? I'll stick with the Mexican stuff. The Mexican stuff I had at North Wrestling, the brewed stuff, £4.50 a pint. Fantastic stuff, so I'll go with that. My meal of the year is probably the same as last year. It's salt and pepper chicken or sweet and sour chicken from my food establishment of the year, which it'll always be, is the Egg with Chippy, located about 10 minutes from my house. It's just the greatest fucking.
Is there any other podcast out there that's talking about Shane Douglas's podcast and the Egg with Chippy? Like, get you a podcast that can do both.
Yeah, if we want a big brand, Slim Chickens, I'm going with, because I love it. But Benno, no, the dips, Benno. Just the dips, mate.
I know.
Just get one of each.
The dips are incredible. The chips are great too. Chicken's fucking crap. It's called Slim's Chickens.
No, Benno. No. I'm fine. But obviously it doesn't compare to the Egg with chicken anyway, so there you go. JP, you going next, mate?
Can't follow that at all. Fucking hell. A lot of these are returning champions. So the best beer, Guinness. It always will be. It's never being fucking removed from that list. The first thing I ask, we go, what is your Guinness or Guinness equivalent? And then when it's in the summer, maybe a cider, but then that tends to fucking send me insane. Soft drink, Ting. Always a fucking returning champion to have around there as well. Crisps, I want to give a shout out for pop-outs from Aldi, which are like sour cream and chive ones. I've quite gotten into those this year, particularly as I put on a bit of timber, and I can't be eating those fucking fiery prawn cocktail Walkers ones that I got named last year as well. Chocolate-wise, I mean, I don't know. Like, I kind of go slightly all over the place on this. I want to say it because even though it's a Christmas thing for me, but Ferrero Rocher, like fucking love them, and they make me feel like I'm classy, even though I know they're really not. They're just a step above Kinder Bueno, if I'm going to be honest with myself. And best meal and food establishment go together as well for me. And it was going to Flatiron in London on the Sunday to see my brother and his partner. And we went down there, and it was like the first time I got to meet Charlie. Went to Flatiron, steak and chips there, which would ironically also be my deathbed meal as well. I'd just be fucking going for that all of the way. The anti-Gareth meal there. Plenty of meat. You'd hate it, Gareth. But they also give you like a free caramel ice cream on the way out. It's like, that's okay. And it wasn't ridiculously expensive. Yeah.
You and desserts this year, mate.
Mate, I've been all over it. Like, I would like to say the two, like, fucking meal of the... God knows what the meals are going to be like at work. I'll eat them. They're free and they're there. But I really need to start tucking into the wacky salads instead, because 2 dinners a day, that's not a sustainable way to live your life. You're full, but at what cost?
Gareth?
Oh, well, soft drink. I can't have fruit. I can't have artificial sweetness, so it's fucking narrows me down a little bit. But something I've discovered this year is Jimmy's iced coffee, which is probably the only... got me through the summer, that. Where I've always been a bit of a rejecter of iced coffee, thinking I don't like coffee when it goes cold, but then actually turns out iced coffee is actually nice. So that's been like big on the list for me this year. From a beer point of view, best beer according to Untapped that I've had this year is a Energy Evolved by Equilibrium Brewery in New York, which is a 8.5% dipper, which top scored for me this year. So there you go. That's the Swerve Strickland Hangman page of beers for me on the app this year. Food establishment, I'll go with Bunderbust. Can't beat a nice bit of vegetarian Indian food there, which is also like got over stacks of craft beer in there as well. So can't beat that. That's a pretty much once a fortnight job at work. For meal, I was struggling with this, but then when you said what's the thing that I've reached for most often, I've put a fucking unbelievable amount of chili sober cup noodles away this year, working from home. And, yeah, I don't even want to know how many of those fucking black plastic pots I've gone through this year. But I'd never eaten it till this year. But what a fucking king to add to the repertoire that has been. Crisps, salt and vinegar real McCoys, boring, but just the go-to there. In a year of no chocolate, so yeah, chocolate's been off the list. So
give Graze a shout out as a substitute, Gareth.
So, yeah.
Of some sort. But before yours, I've got to mention T-Bays as well. Overall, just what an establishment that was. Jesus Christ, open my eyes. That JP
win service station of the year. The IWC of service stations.
Easily.
I've just remembered I said McCoy's there, but not strictly crisps. But Sarah started buying these for a period this year. Burton's salt and vinegar fish and chips. Can you remember them? They're not quite crisps. They're like them.
Yeah.
I had them in years, but Sarah just started randomly buying them. Fucking legendary them. Like, yeah. Top of the hill.
Go on, Ben.
Yeah, for mine, I feel like you could probably tell me better than me, Matt. You probably know better than I do. I'm not that inspiring this year, so yeah. Correct me if there's any you think I should say. Soft drink, I'm going to go, and I got me missed out last year, and I can't believe I didn't pick it, so it's definitely winning this year. Mezzo Mix, mine and JP's old favourite from Germany. The fact that you can get that shit. It's not even shit. It actually looks all right. That big arcade thing they got in town now. The
Gravity Max.
Go kart. Yeah, you go kart and you can fucking. There's like a million activities and there's bowling. All cost fucking £700 to do each thing. Even they've got it. You can get the peach version of it anyway. If anyone doesn't know what it is, it's Coke mixed with Fanta. But now you can get flavored versions, and the peach one, as Simon will attest to as well, is just the king. And I should have picked it last year, so glad I could get it in this year. So that's in there. Crisps, I don't think I have anything new. I haven't been that adventurous with the crisps this year. Like I'll always like like we were saying on the pre-shows a lot this year, like a cheap tortilla chip with like some jalapenos. If that counts, I'd throw that in there. If it doesn't, I'll go the standard salt and vinegar discos. That's always always a winner for me. Same with chocolate. It's like, well, what have you reached for? What have you gone for when it's available? And I haven't really had too much when it comes to chocolate this year. With the chocolate digestive count, Matty, the hobnob of the variety, can I throw that in there? Does that count?
I mean, even JP's voice said it all there. Not having that one, JP. No,
I'll reach for it.
Yeah, I mean, it is technically got chocolate on, Benno. But if you don't have any others, I'll let you have it. But
no problem. I'll go with choc dip in that case. Does that count?
What's that? Is that the fucking with the biscuits dipping into your shit?
Yeah.
Fuck off, Benno. No, that's worse than a chocolate digestive shout.
Ah, come on.
Don't you have like a Mars bar, Benno? So you'd have
not really. No, I don't. Ripple's the standard for me over the years. If someone's like, you want something to chop, I'll go with the Ripple. Apparently, I said Reese's Pieces last year. I'm not really particularly. I'll have them, but I'm not
American though, would it, Ben?
Yeah. And on that note, to be honest, like beer, I've not been drinking this year. I've been boring this year. I've not really had much. I was trying to think of anything that like stood out that I had like on a big occasion or else anywhere. I remember like when we were in the Mosaic Tap in Newcastle. They had like I meant to find out what it was. They had like a winter beer there. Did me and you both get it, Gareth? I remember liking that. I remember liking the beers when we were at the. We had one too many of them when we were at that Liverpool indie show. But there isn't really a specific one that stands out. They're probably my two favorite occasions drinking. But yeah, I've not been usually I'm a drink at home type of guy, or I have been in my life. Not really this year. Turning to you, Matt. Don't have too many these days. But I'd throw some of them in there if I was going to pick one. If I couldn't have a beer, I'll break the rules on this one too, Matty. Can I pick a coffee of the year? Because it's Dunkin' Donuts filter. Or my new current favourite, Black Sheep Coffee. Big fan of their filter coffees. Yeah,
I was going to say, but every time you record, you've got a Dunkin' Donuts cup.
Oh, I've got empties here and everything.
You're not refill them, though. You should buy one.
I do sometimes reuse them. Yeah. So if you see me drinking one, it's not usually one I bought, or maybe I bought it earlier that day, but I'll usually top it up.
It just blows my mind. Yeah, coffee's delivered, lad. I'd be cold when you get there.
Only when I've run out of coffee. Usually I'll make my own. I'm good about that. I've got
for the
But you filled me in Newcastle about that you buy the
my mum's buying me a proper coffee machine for Christmas though, so I'm excited about that.
You and Liam were pure brothers in arms over proper coffee, weren't you? You were loving each other.
Yeah. I mean, coffee was the answer, wasn't it? Not proper coffee. Coffee. Not granules that have been frozen and whatever. So yeah, that's in there. I really like, to be honest, if I can't get black sheep coffee in there, I'll throw it in meal. The waffle things they do with like peanut butter and banana. I don't know if you've had any of them before, guys. You probably have that. Oh, they're cracking. They're amazing. Like they're like
black sheep.
Yeah, black sheep. Yeah, the one in town. Oh,
right. No, I've not eaten in there. I've only gone in there for coffee, like. But I've just had me checking my Monzo Wrapped there, like, and it says that I'm in the top 5% of people who've spent in Foundation coffee shop in Manchester, around the corner from my office. And I'm a bit like, fuck. I was like, maybe I should just buy some of my own coffee then instead of fucking pissing my money up their walls.
Having all them tokens come up, Gareth, off the kids' purchases, or is that not on that card? Or like the game stuff and that.
The one that surprised me on my Monzo one, maybe I'll go into it more on the crappies end, was like, I'm in the top 5% of people who bought food at M&S Foods. I feel like that can't be right. Like, I must just spend a lot when I go. I don't know. Or it was that juice cans I did for a couple of months.
I think everyone spends a lot when they go there, don't they? Bloody hellfire.
I suppose so.
I was also embarrassing in the top 5% of Crosby Domino's there as well on that as well. So that was a bit like, all right, there you go. I'm wasting a lot of money on fucking pizza and coffee there, aren't I?
Come on, Ben. What's your gaff?
Food gaff, right? Okay, yeah. Sorry, throw that in. What did I have? Tim Hortons when I'm available to go there. I like it there.
Taco Bell.
Say that. I want really the honest. I like Taco Bell, but it depends. I go through phases. The real answer is the Chippy around the corner from me, but no one else can go there. So
the red Chippy, Benno.
No, on the front Docklands.
Oh, Portland's in it. Portland, you go there now. Yeah. Not Leeds then. Yeah.
No, that's the one. There you go.
I love you just listing American fast food outlets and just assume that are sort of secondary,
kind of right. Do you know when he used to mention Wenzel's? I thought that was American just because Benno said it's good and it's in London. Yeah,
I did until we saw it when we went.
Did have a Gwenzel's this weekend. Nice Jamaican patty with a coffee. Good stuff. There you go. That's it. Yeah, that's the big six, and that's the end of the Grappy Awards. Only went for 3 hours 40. I think we went longer than last year on the Grappy section, lads. So well
boys, you might work soon.
Oh no. But there you go. If you're listening on the free feed, obviously that's the Grappy Awards. The Crappy Awards where we go into the negatives. If you've gotten this far, surely you want to hear us rip into some stuff as well. That will be dropping on the Patreon tomorrow, both for video and audio listeners. Get it by becoming a YouTube member or by trying a little free trial on the Patreon. Trial will get you a Christmas film club as well. Might even just about sneak in Ask Grapple, depending on when you time it as well. So yeah, all kinds going on. So yeah, it's going to be over to the crappies, and yeah, that'll be out for patrons tomorrow at some point. Yeah, the audio and video version. But yeah, anything more to say? What are you, lads? We thought it was crap. 3 hours 40 minutes talking about it.
Yeah, fucking great, wasn't it?
Yes, just all your faces admitting WWE's the promotion, especially you, Benno. I've been waiting
for a
long time.
You won.
A long time.
You won.
Oh, I love it. Well, through the magic of editing, there'll be a crappies appearing in people's feeds.
Great stuff, though, boys.
That's it for us for live streams. Thank you to everybody who's tuned in live with us. Chris,
thank you.
Made it to the end. Simon made it to the end. Ramon's still giving me grief about crisps. Platt's still around. So thank you, lads, for sticking around for the late night with us. But yeah, on that note, we will catch you on the other side on the crappies. Happy 2023. Enjoy Christmas. Don't know.
All the best.
All the best.
Bye.
Happy Christmas.
Yay.